Chapter 321. Poplar Fruit did not notice that the man standing next to Lu Yunran was a little chubby. As for his height, he was probably around 1.7 meters, and he was wearing high-top leather shoes. This man named Lin Tianxi was very sensitive to Lu Yunran's absent-mindedness when talking to him. He followed Lu Yunran's gaze and caught a glimpse of Poplar Fruit's figure. This made Lin Tianxi feel very uncomfortable. He had long heard that Lu Yunran had an ex-boyfriend. After dating Lu Yunran for half a year, he could clearly sense that Lu Yunran still could not forget him. Here he had to mention how Lu Yunran and Lin Tianxi had met. Lin Tianxi was from a family of officials. Some of the elders in his family held important positions in the municipal committee, and he had also climbed his way to the position of section chief in the local tax bureau. This made him, who was only in his early 30s, high-spirited and vigorous, and gave him the feeling of a young talent. However, despite his success in the government, Lin Tianxi was still unmarried because he was chubby and looked a little too ordinary. Of course, it was not that no one liked him, but he also had the heart of a toad lusting after a swan's flesh. His standards for a partner were slightly higher. His family urged him every day, and Lin Tianxi was also very anxious. Once on his way home after work, he happened to bump into Lu Yunran and Lei Xingliang, who were standing at the intersection and exchanging pleasantries. Lei Xingliang was Lu Yunran and Poplar Fruit's high school classmate. He had a small tax business of his own, and had some private dealings with Lin Tianxi. When Lin Tianxi saw Lu Yunran, he was stunned. Since Lei Xingliang happened to be in the middle, he later pestered Lei Xingliang to introduce Lu Yunran to him. Lei Xingliang saw that there was a chance to close the gap between him and the god of fortune, and his heart bloomed with joy. He immediately patted his chest and promised Lin Tianxi. Afterward, he spared no effort to matchmake Lin Tianxi and Lu Yunran. His breakthrough point was Lu Yunran's parents. After Lu Yunran's parents found out about Lin Tianxi's family background and status, they were especially satisfied and fanned the flames by Lu Yunran's ears. At that time, Lu Yunran had just returned home from the Buddha city. Her heart was in a mess. Poplar Fruit had indeed hurt her, and even cut off their future. However, the past 4 years were a mess that could not be easily cut off with a knife. She could not sort it out, and it was even more confusing. At this moment, Lin Tianxi took advantage of the situation. Speaking of Lin Tianxi, other than being a little plump and ordinary, he was not bad in other aspects. He easily helped Lu Yunran solve her job problem, an idle job at a news agency. He was also humorous and witty. He had many more years of experience than Poplar Fruit, and knew how to read people's expressions. Such mature charm was something that a woman like Lu Yunran, who longed for marriage, could not resist. In addition to the incitement and encouragement of the two families, Lu Yunran finally accepted Lin Tianxi's pursuit. The two of them were together for less than half a year before they got engaged and got married today. A new love was the best way to heal a broken relationship. However, it had to be love first. Lu Yunran had never felt that there was love between her and Lin Tianxi. As time passed, this feeling became clearer and clearer. However, she had already sacrificed so much for Lin Tianxi that she could no longer extricate herself. Moreover, Lu Yunran did not want to extricate herself. Although love was dead, wasn't everything in front of her what she wanted? Lu Yunran had always told herself that she was about to get married. After marriage, she had to learn to love this man who would be with her for the rest of her life. That being said, how could the unforgettable memory of first love be let go so easily? Lu Yunran and Lin Tianxi's relationship was that Lin Tianxi was as passionate as fire, while Lu Yunran was as plain as tea. Her fragrance was tempting, but it was as tasteless as drinking a cup of plain water. It was even a little bitter. After all, Lin Tianxi was an official. He hid his displeasure very well, and did not let Lu Yunran see his negative side. However, today, when he saw Lu Yunran's expression and thought of how she had always looked at the door with anticipation, he understood in his heart. That tall and handsome man was definitely her ex. How could Lu Yunran do this? How could she call her ex over at her own wedding? Lin Tianxi glanced again at the man who was really tall. He was several heads taller than himself. Lin Tianxi, who was feeling a little inferior, felt a fiery rage rising in his head. This was just the fuse that ignited the resentment that had been accumulated for a long time. Worry, jealousy, resentment. Lin Tianxi could no longer make sense of it. He was now like a male lion who had discovered a new member of the same sex in his territory. He gritted his teeth and swore in his heart that he would definitely expel him. Lin Tianxi watched as Poplar Fruit sat at the table where Lei Xingliang was, and a sly smile appeared on his face. However, this expression disappeared in a flash. Before Lu Yunran noticed, he had already resumed his normal smile. As if nothing had happened, he pulled Lu Yunran to greet the other relatives in his family, both close and distant. They followed Jiang Bo to the table where their high school classmates were sitting. Poplar Fruit's appearance immediately caused a commotion. Everyone exclaimed in surprise. During their 4 years in university, Poplar Fruit and Lu Yunran could be said to have always appeared as a pair at class reunions. Everyone knew that Poplar Fruit and Lu Yunran used to be a couple. Now that Lu Yunran was getting married to someone else, how could they not be surprised when Poplar Fruit showed up? However, everyone had a tacit understanding, and did not ask Poplar Fruit why he could let go of his past and attend the wedding like Jiangbo did. After the initial shock, everyone coincidentally changed the topic to Kiki, who was in Poplar Fruit's arms. They purposely ignored the past between Poplar Fruit and Lu Yunran. Everyone was an adult, and they were not as close as Jiangbo and Poplar Fruit. It was best not to ask and pretend that nothing had happened. Everyone would not feel awkward sitting together. Poplar Fruit found that there were not many classmates at Lu Yunran's wedding. There were less than 10 people, so the seats were very spacious. After Poplar Fruit sat down, there were still seats next to him. It was normal. After everyone graduated, they went to work or further their studies all over the country. Very few of them returned to their hometown. Even if it was the May Day holiday, everyone tried to travel according to their own plans. Only 2 girls who were especially close to Lu Yunran rushed back. As for Jiangbo, he happened to be on leave this week. There was only 1 day off on the May Day holiday in Harbor City, to visit his family, so he came along. Everyone was particularly interested in the innocent Kiki. They kept asking Poplar Fruit about Kiki. Poplar Fruit was also happy to share interesting stories about Kiki with everyone. Of course, not everyone was listening with great interest. Lei Xingliang's smile was a little fake. After he saw Poplar Fruit, he was a little restless. Just when everyone was laughing because of Kiki's cute childish words, Lei Xingliang found a chance and quietly left the seat. There will be a good show tomorrow. Please look forward to it, hee. It's a new month, looking for recommendations and monthly votes. Everyone, don't be stingy with your votes. Chapter 322. The hotel started serving the dishes one after another. However, the wedding had not officially started yet, so the people below the stage were not reserved. Once the dishes were served, they started eating. This was also a characteristic of the wedding banquets in Poplar Fruit's hometown. Most people received the invitation and came to pool their money for a meal. The people on the stage were having a lively wedding, and the people below the stage were also having a lively meal. If outsiders saw this, they might think that there were 2 groups of people on the stage and below the stage. Poplar Fruit's table also started eating. Kiki, what do you want to eat? A female classmate asked with a smile. Auntie will get some for you, okay? Kiki wants to eat cake. Kiki replied crisply. But where was the cake on the stage? Poplar Fruit smiled and said to the female classmate, Tandy, I'll get some for her. She doesn't know what to eat yet. Poplar Fruit looked at the dishes on the table. The chicken was too tough, so Kiki probably couldn't chew it. Eating some fish would be good. Poplar Fruit reached out and used his chopsticks to pick up a small piece of fish and put it in his bowl. Kiki also stretched out her neck and watched her father pick out the fish bones in the fish. When her father's chopsticks came over, she couldn't wait any longer. She opened her mouth and sucked on the chopsticks. Kiki, you have to chew a bit before you can eat. Poplar Fruit pulled the chopsticks out and smiled. Poplar Fruit was feeding his daughter something to eat. At this time, the groom who had come back from outside to welcome the guests happened to pass by the table with the white-faced and red-lipped bride. They happened to see Lei Xingliang sitting at the table. Little Lei, haha. Lin Tianxi let go of Lu Yunran's hand and walked over. He patted Lei Xingliang's shoulder and laughed. Why are you sitting here? Come with me to the main table. You're my matchmaker with little Lu. Hearing Lin Tianxi's words, Poplar Fruit took a deep look at Lei Xingliang, who looked like a boss with his permed hair. He could feel Lu Yunran's burning gaze from behind the groom. After a moment of hesitation, Poplar Fruit glanced at Lu Yunran. Their eyes met for a brief moment before he nodded slightly and lowered his head to look at the wine glass in front of him. No, big brother Lin. I still have a large group of classmates to take care of. Lei Xingliang also laughed. Oh right. Little Lei, this group of people are your and little Lu's high school classmates, right? Lin Tianxi, who was about to leave, suddenly turned back and asked with a smile. Why don't you introduce her to me? Little Lu is quite shy and refuses to introduce me to your classmates. Okay. Lei Xingliang readily agreed. However, he wanted to introduce Lin Tianxi to everyone. Everyone, we all know that Yunran's groom is called Lin Tianxi. Here, the groom is standing in front of everyone today. Let me introduce everyone to each other. First, I would like to introduce Lin Tianxi, Section Chief Lin. No, he's just a small section chief, Lin Tianxi said modestly with a slightly proud tone. That's not small, Lei Xingliang said exaggeratedly. Big brother Lin is from the local taxation bureau. He has a lot of power and is already a section chief at such a young age. He has a bright future ahead of him. Then Lei Xingliang started to introduce them one by one. Even though he did not raise his head, Poplar Fruit had a very strange feeling. That was even though Lin Tianxi was listening to Lei Xingliang's introduction. His gaze was still faintly on him. Poplar Fruit now trusted his sixth sense very much. So he lowered his head to take care of his daughter, and his eyebrows slightly furrowed. This is Triple X, Yunran's best friend in high school. Now she works at Triple X. Lei Xingliang introduced them one by one. Every time, Lin Tianxi would hold the person who was introduced with both hands and thank her for taking care of Lu Yunran in high school. Everyone who had their hands held by him would feel flattered. It was quite hypocritical. Poplar Fruit was a little disdainful, but he did not show it. Jiangbo, who was in front of Poplar Fruit, was a little more courageous. He calmly shook Lin Tianxi's hand and calmly replied, "It's a small matter. It's not worth mentioning." When it was Poplar Fruit's turn, he stood up with his daughter in his arms and looked calmly at Lei Xingliang, waiting to see how he would introduce himself. Big brother Lin, this is Poplar Fruit. He's also Yunran's friend. Lei Xingliang emphasized the word friend. It sounded a little weird. I've heard of your name. Lin Tianxi stood in front of Poplar Fruit and laughed as he held Poplar Fruit's empty right arm. Little Lu used to talk about you often. Lu Yunran looked at Lin Tianxi with surprise. She knew that in front of Lin Tianxi, she had never mentioned the two words Poplar Fruit. She was even tight-lipped when talking about her relationship. However, Lu Yunran was silent. She understood that Lin Tianxi must have heard about Poplar Fruit from Lei Xingliang. Oh, is that so? Poplar Fruit calmly replied with the same fake smile on his face. No matter what happened in the past, Lin Tianxi was like a big leader. His left hand held Poplar Fruit's right hand, and his right hand gently patted the back of Poplar Fruit's right hand. He said sincerely, "I have to thank you for taking care of little Lu for me in the past. When little Lu just graduated, I know it was tough. You didn't have much money either. But don't worry. Little Lu will definitely lead a good life if she follows me in the future. In the future, I will definitely make little Lu the happiest woman in the world." Lin Tianxi's voice and tone were very sincere, but every word was very grating in Poplar Fruit's ears. What did he mean by "it was tough in the past"? What did he mean by "not much money"? What did he mean by "following him in the future would lead a good life"? Every word he said was either belittling others or elevating himself. Poplar Fruit admitted that Xiao Ran's work in Buddha City was indeed a little tiring, and his career had just started. However, he earned a monthly salary of 10,000 a year after graduation. Was that considered not much money? Lei Xingliang smiled and agreed. Big brother Lin, you're being humble again. There's no need to talk about the future. Little Lu is already the happiest woman in the world now. Let me tell you, Big brother Lin not only has a bright future, but his family's condition is also one of the best. Now they just bought a new wedding house in Golden Gui Huiting, and it's the best house with a sea view in the third phase. He already knew what Lin Tianxi meant, and when he saw that Lin Tianxi and Poplar Fruit were not on good terms, he didn't care about their friendship as classmates and added insult to injury. Golden Gui Huiting was the most famous luxury residential area in the city. Hearing this name, many girls exclaimed softly. Lu Yunran's best friend even held Lu Yunran's hand and smiled. Xiao Ran, you're so lucky to be with Section Chief Lin. Tomorrow's chapter will definitely be what you're looking forward to, Xiaohan promises. Chapter 323. Poplar Fruit looked at everything in front of him, as if he was watching this farce from the outside. He turned to look at Lu Yunran, his face indifferent, and said without joy or worry, "This is good, Xiao Ran, congratulations." Lu Yunran listened to everyone's praises and congratulations, and said a few words of hypocrisy. When she heard Poplar Fruit's words, she was stunned. If it wasn't for the thick layer of foundation, she would have looked even paler. She looked at Poplar Fruit with a trace of bitterness that was difficult to erase. However, Poplar Fruit didn't continue to look at her, but turned to Lin Tianxi, who was still holding his right hand, and said with a smile, "Division Chief Lin, you don't have to be so polite. Xiao Ran will be happy with you. That's enough." After that, Poplar Fruit quietly pulled his right hand away, then sat down and thought to himself, "Now that I've said it, it's time for you to leave, right?" However, Lin Tianxi didn't want to let Poplar Fruit go just like that. He put his hand on Poplar Fruit's shoulder, looked at Lei Xingliang, and said with some blame, "Little Lei, you introduced everyone in detail, but you introduced Little Yang so carelessly. Can't you just give a name?" After Poplar Fruit sat down, Lin Tianxi finally didn't have to look up at Poplar Fruit. He put his hand on Poplar Fruit's shoulder, as if he was superior. Poplar Fruit frowned and looked at his hand, but didn't say anything. "Little Yang, where are you working now?" Lin Tianxi made a concerned expression and asked with a smile, "Are you working in a foreign company? Or a state-owned enterprise?" Poplar Fruit raised his eyebrows, then smiled faintly and said, "I don't have a fixed job at the moment, so I'm self-employed." As they were talking, a woman wearing sunglasses walked up to the railing on the second floor, because the wedding banquet hadn't started yet. Her height of 1.7 meters made her stand out in this small southern city. This was Zheng Yujie. She promised Poplar Fruit that she wouldn't come in, but not long after Poplar Fruit went in, she left her car at the parking lot in front of the hotel. Because it was a luxury car like the Land Rover, the valet took a few hundred yuan tip from Zheng Yujie without saying anything. Zheng Yujie sneaked in. She didn't dare to run to Poplar Fruit directly. If Poplar Fruit was angry because of this, it wouldn't be easy. She saw that there weren't many people upstairs, so she sneaked upstairs and looked around the railing in the middle, looking for Poplar Fruit. After a long time, she finally found him. Zheng Yujie saw a man in a groom's outfit standing next to Poplar Fruit and chattering about something. She frowned, then went above Poplar Fruit and secretly eavesdropped. Self-employed. Lin Tianxi's facial muscles twitched, as if he was trying to hold back his laughter. He then said, "Moving bricks is considered a self-employed job, right?" Lin Tianxi made a somewhat embarrassed expression and said with a smile, I'm sorry, I'm a straightforward person. This isn't directed at you." Poplar Fruit waved his hand, indicating that it was fine. But Lin Tianxi continued, "But Little Yang, I don't want to criticize you, but look at what you're wearing. It's easy for people to mistake you for a migrant worker." Haha. Poplar Fruit looked at the wrinkled white shirt he was wearing. No, it should be called a gray shirt. Because Kiki's soles were covered in mud, Poplar Fruit didn't pay attention, and was rubbed by Kiki's feet. As a result, it was black and white, and the more she rubbed it, the darker it became. It really did look like silk. Lin Tianxi's expression changed. He went from laughing loudly to holding back his laughter, and said with an apologetic tone, "I'm sorry, I just couldn't help but laugh when I thought of a graduate from a famous university moving bricks, haha." Upstairs, Zheng Yujie heard Lin Tianxi's words, and her face darkened. She suddenly flipped out. She looked left and right, and almost couldn't help but throw a stool down to smash this damn fatty to death. In the end, She looked down again and memorized Poplar Fruit's position. Then, she carried her bag and strode up the stairs. Lin Tianxi's continuous criticism made Poplar Fruit's chest burn with anger, but he took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He kept telling himself not to get angry and ruin Lu Yunran's wedding. This was a sacred moment she had been looking forward to for more than 20 years. In the end, Poplar Fruit only said calmly, "Mr. Lin, you're joking." He just wanted to keep the peace and not make a big deal out of a small matter. Did I hit the nail on the head? Lin Tianxi pretended to be surprised. Poplar Fruit didn't have time to explain before Lin Tianxi continued. "Little Yang, don't worry, I definitely didn't mean to look down on you. And I wouldn't dare to look down on the migrant worker brothers. Didn't the central government say that the migrant worker brothers are an important part of our country's urbanization process that can't be ignored? Little Yang, don't feel inferior, being a migrant worker is quite honorable." Lin Tianxi's words became more and more unpleasant. Lu Yunran walked over with a sad and apologetic expression. She hugged his arm and dragged him toward the main table in the center. Choking with sobs, she said, "Tianxi, don't say any more, okay?" Poplar Fruit looked at Lu Yunran's actions, and pleading with a complicated expression. He sighed again in his heart. However, the more Lu Yunran acted like this, the more Lin Tianxi felt that Lu Yunran still had feelings for her old lover, and that she was still desperately protecting Poplar Fruit. Lin Tianxi's heart was filled with jealousy, and he swung his arm forcefully. Lin Tianxi was short and fat, but his thick and strong arms were quite strong. Chapter 324. After the annoying fly dragged Lu Yunran away, Poplar Fruit suddenly felt that the world was peaceful. Lin Tianxi felt that there was no need for him to stay here any longer. He also felt particularly aggrieved in front of Poplar Fruit. So even when the newlyweds were toasting each other, he didn't look straight at Poplar Fruit. It was peaceful. Poplar Fruit looked at Lu Yunran's back and felt a little lost. They used to be so lovey-dovey, but now they had separated. She had married someone else, and he had gone further and further in his new life. He was afraid that they would never see each other again. Xiaohan can promise here that Lu Yunran's scenes basically ended here. This book is not a melodramatic drama, so there won't be a melodramatic plot of an ex-girlfriend getting back together with her ex-boyfriend after a relationship change. Poplar Fruit retracted his gaze and looked at Zheng Yujia, who gave him a headache just thinking about it. "Why are you here?" Poplar Fruit opened his mouth, but he didn't ask the question in the end. There was no need to ask this question. He shook his head, pulled out the empty seat beside him, and said helplessly, "You sit here." Zheng Yujia had just recovered from the kiss with Poplar Fruit. She, who was always carefree, was actually a little shy. She bit her lower lip, looked up at Poplar Fruit, and sat down very meekly. The other students didn't say anything, but Jiang Bo, who was sitting on Poplar Fruit's left, was a little excited. He punched Poplar Fruit, winked and said, "Poplar Fruit, this girl isn't from Guangdong, right?" "Hello, I'm from Beijing." After sitting down, Zheng Yujia finally recovered. She generously extended her right hand to Jiang Bo and smiled. "Hello, I'm Poplar Fruit's best friend. I'm now working in Hong Kong." Jiang Bo was a little flattered and said, "Hong Kong, will we be discriminated against?" Zheng Yujia asked curiously. Over the years, she had seen a lot of news on the news about Harbor City people rejecting mainland tourists. "It's okay," Jiang Bo scratched his head and said. "There is indeed such a phenomenon, but because I can speak Cantonese, I haven't encountered such a situation. Actually, this is a phenomenon of psychological imbalance," Poplar Fruit said with a smile. "On the one hand, the mainland is the main source of income for Hong Kong. Don't be fooled by them. In fact, they have taken a lot of money from us. On the other hand, they are worried that China's economy will overtake them. Isn't China's GDP rising rapidly? They're worried that they'll lose this sense of superiority, so they want to show their difference in other ways." "Papa," Kiki couldn't help it at this time. She looked at the table full of delicacies. She could only smell the fragrance but couldn't eat. After sitting down, she kept pulling Poplar Fruit's arm and whispered, "Kiki wants to eat." Interrupted by Kiki, Poplar Fruit had to first pick up some fish for her to eat. This kind of sea fish was steamed, and the meat was fresh and tender. Although it didn't melt in the mouth, the soft taste was really appetizing. When Poplar Fruit picked up some fish for his daughter, he couldn't help but put a few pieces of fish into his mouth. At this time, Kiki would be very anxious. She protested and pulled her father's right hand, trying to pull her father's chopsticks down like a mantis trying to stop a car. The most delicious thing at the banquet was the stewed mutton that had just been served. The mutton was cut into pieces and stewed until it was tender. The dark brown gravy lingered on it, revealing an attractive gloss. When the lid of the casserole was opened, the mutton was still steaming hot. Fennel, star anise, and other spices were stewed together, and the strong smell of the mutton overflowed the whole table. Good food should be eaten while it was hot, especially mutton. If it was cold, the taste would be reduced. Therefore, when the mutton was just served, everyone quickly picked it up and ate it. They were even stingy with talking. Poplar Fruit picked up a piece of mutton and put it in his mouth. As soon as the mutton touched his tongue, the strong smell of mutton exploded on his taste buds. What a pleasure! If he ate it in the winter, even the gods would be envious. The delicate taste of the mutton was reflected in the process of chewing. Poplar Fruit even wanted to close his eyes and taste it carefully. The little foodie Kiki smelled the fragrance of the mutton and saw her father's intoxicated look when eating the mutton. She couldn't sit still and quickly grabbed her father's right hand that was holding the chopsticks. She shook it and hummed in protest. "You want to eat too?" Poplar Fruit opened his eyes and asked with a smile. What he was thinking about now was not whether Kiki could eat the mutton or not. Remember when he went to Beijing in October last year? Poplar Fruit and Blizzard's Alan had eaten mutton tripe at a famous tripe restaurant in Beijing. Kiki wanted to eat it at that time. In the end, Poplar Fruit let her taste a little bit of the tripe soup. Kiki couldn't stand the smell of mutton and spat out the soup. Kiki nodded seriously. Mutton isn't easy for Kiki to digest, right? Zheng Yujie asked from the side. Poplar Fruit thought for a moment and said to Zheng Yujie, "This shouldn't be a problem. It's been stewing for a few hours and the meat has been stewed. The mutton was cooked quite soft, and Kiki should be able to eat it." So he reached out with his chopsticks and picked up a small piece of mutton. Using the spoon and chopsticks, he tore it apart to ensure that Kiki could eat it easily. "Try a little bit first." Poplar Fruit picked up a small piece and put it in Kiki's mouth to see her reaction. Kiki opened her small mouth full of hope and ate the mutton. After chewing twice, she felt that something was wrong and her small face suddenly wrinkled. Poplar Fruit saw his daughter's mouth twitch and quickly reached out his hand. Sure enough, Kiki spat out the mutton into her father's hand and revealed a look of disgust. Even though it was already covered with fennel, star anise and other spices, the mutton smell was still very strong in the meat. From the looks of it, Kiki was very disgusted with the mutton smell. Poplar Fruit laughed. He explained to Zheng Yujie what happened last year, and he knew that Kiki didn't like mutton. Mutton is so delicious. It's a pity that you don't like it." Zheng Yujie laughed and teased Kiki. However, Kiki's appetite might have been ruined by the mutton smell, so she didn't pester her father to give her more food. Even though it was a wedding banquet, at Poplar Fruit's table, it could be considered half a gathering among high school classmates. Poplar Fruit and the others ate and talked about the past, sighing a little. Of course, there was no lack of alcohol in the gathering. Muddled was put aside, and everyone persuaded each other to drink beer. Poplar Fruit didn't drink, but Zheng Yujie generously accepted all of it. Looking at this somewhat familiar scene, Poplar Fruit absent-mindedly returned to the time when he and Zheng Yujie had just met. Wasn't it Zheng Yujie who stopped those guys from the Guangdong University of Technology's basketball team from persuading Poplar Fruit to drink? Everyone, use your votes to support the poor. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 325. Fortunately, it was a wedding banquet, so everyone restrained themselves from drinking. Zheng Yujie only drank a few glasses of beer, so this insignificant amount was like drinking nothing to her. When she left, her expression was still the same as usual. After the banquet, Poplar Fruit did not plan to say goodbye to Lu Yunran. He saw Lu Yunran's flushed face on the central stage, so he knew that there was no need for that. It was better to come quietly and leave quietly. His heart was already calm. In fact, their table had just been discussing the upcoming activities, and Jiang Bo had suggested that everyone go to karaoke. It was rare for them to get together. Lei Xingliang drank 2 glasses, patted his chest, and said that he would pay the bill. Poplar Fruit still declined the invitation. He did not want to stay here any longer, especially when Lei Xingliang was paying the bill. When Poplar Fruit and Zheng Yujie were about to reach the gate, Poplar Fruit handed Kiki to Zheng Yujie, took his car keys and asked with a smile, "Where did you park the car?" "Right at the gate." Zheng Yujie shrugged, blinked, and said, "It's a little illegal. Our car took up 2 of their parking spaces, but no one said anything." Just as the saying went, enemies would not meet. After exiting the gate, Poplar Fruit frowned slightly. He saw the man named Lin Tianxi. This short, fat man was on the road in front of them, nodding and bowing as he sent someone to the car. One of his hands was blocking the car door, and he looked so flattering. Poplar Fruit planned to take a detour, as he did not want to meet him again. However, Lin Tianxi had just finished sending off his leader. When he turned around, his gaze fell on Poplar Fruit and Lu Yunran. Lin Tianxi's pupils shrank slightly. Poplar Fruit did not want to see him, but why would he want to see Poplar Fruit again? When they saw Poplar Fruit, their gazes collided. At this moment, they couldn't avoid it even if they wanted to. Lin Tianxi's heart was still burning with an evil fire, and the thought of competing once again surged into his mind. Lin Tianxi rolled his eyes and put on a smiling face to greet him. He said, "Oh, isn't this Poplar Fruit? The 2 of you are leaving? Why don't you play a little longer?" Poplar Fruit said to him indifferently, "It's getting late. It'll take a few more hours to get back to my hometown. There's no need." A smile appeared in Lin Tianxi's eyes as he pretended to be concerned and said, "Is that so? The station is quite far from here, and there are so many people here, so it's not easy to find a taxi. How about I arrange a car to take you to the station?" Poplar Fruit's facial muscles twitched. He looked at Lin Tianxi as if he was looking at a joke. However, Lin Tianxi didn't notice it at all. He thought that Poplar Fruit was too embarrassed to speak. He continued to nag. "It's so inconvenient to take the bus. Don't you think so? It's so inconvenient to not have a car these days." As he spoke, Lin Tianxi deliberately lifted the hem of his suit, revealing his big belly and the car key with 4 rings buckled at the waist of his trousers. A proud expression appeared on Lin Tianxi's face. The sense of superiority brought by the Audi made him feel a little smug. This time, Poplar Fruit stopped Zheng Yujie, who was about to flip out. Inside, Poplar Fruit had been modest because he didn't want to ruin the wedding atmosphere for Lu Yunran's sake. Now that they were out, there weren't any acquaintances around. Poplar Fruit wouldn't spoil him and let him humiliate him. Poplar Fruit smiled and took out his car key. He shook it and pressed the unlock button. The Land Rover parked in front of the hotel's entrance beeped twice, and its head-sized headlights flashed. Under Lin Tianxi's stunned gaze, Poplar Fruit smiled faintly and said, "Mr. Lin, there's no need for that. I have a car." After that, Poplar Fruit walked back to his Land Rover with Zheng Yujie without looking back. Just as he brushed past Lin Tianxi, Poplar Fruit said softly, "Mr. Lin, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't pretend to be cool, or you'll be struck by lightning." Lin Tianxi stared blankly as Poplar Fruit and Zheng Yujie got into the Land Rover. Amid the roar of the engine, the Land Rover slowly drove away. Lin Tianxi felt his face burning, as if he had been slapped. There was no need to elaborate on such a clown. The camera returned to Poplar Fruit. After driving for a while, Zheng Yujie suddenly burst into laughter. She turned to look at Poplar Fruit and smiled. "I thought you would continue to tolerate him." "Humph," Poplar Fruit snorted proudly and said. "I tolerate him because of Xiao Ran. Lu Yunran. I've been unhappy with him for a long time." "You're protecting your ex-girlfriend like this?" Zheng Yujie emphasized the word ex-girlfriend and asked. "Don't tell me you're still in love with her? Why don't you take her back?" Zheng Yujie's words were filled with jealousy, which was not like her. Poplar Fruit looked at Zheng Yujie through the rearview mirror and shook his head. He smiled and said, "It's not that I'm still in love with her. I broke up with her in the past. It's impossible for us to get back together now, and it's impossible for us to do so in the future." Zheng Yujie blinked and continued to listen to Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit explained. She longed for her own love and marriage, but I had Kiki. I couldn't give her what she wanted, so we broke up. This is what I owe her. I can't give it to her, but I can't destroy what she wants. Poplar Fruit smiled faintly. Just tolerate Lin Tianxi. Just treat it as if you met a weirdo on the road. It'll be over after a while. Why do you have to do something that will make both of you unhappy? I don't think the person she chose is good. Zheng Yujie curled her lips and said. She must have been blind to find such a weirdo. Section Chief, haha. If I were to become an official, I would at least be a deputy division chief. Okay, let's not talk about him. Just thinking about him makes me annoyed. He's as long-winded as Tang Sanzang. Poplar Fruit laughed. Zheng Yujie obediently shut her mouth. She turned her body and looked at Poplar Fruit's handsome side profile. Her eyes were a little blurred. What a good man. Suddenly, Zheng Yujie's eyes flashed with a hint of strangeness. She smiled charmingly and asked, by the way, how does my mouth taste? Poplar Fruit's face turned red. His muscles tightened, and his neck was so stiff that he didn't dare to turn his head. He sneaked a peek at the rearview mirror and glanced at Zheng Yujie. Zheng Yujie keenly noticed Poplar Fruit's gaze. She deliberately stuck out her pink tongue and licked her red lips. She seductively glanced at Poplar Fruit and sweetly asked, do you want to do it again? Poplar Fruit's hand trembled, and the front of the car shook violently. He almost drove the car into a ditch. Fortunately, he grabbed the steering wheel in time. Otherwise, 3 lives would have been lost. She really was a seductress that wouldn't give up until she was dead. Everyone, use your votes to support the poor. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 326. When they got home, Poplar Fruit and Zheng Yujie started to pack their luggage to return to Guangzhou. After all, they had stayed in their hometown for a week. If it wasn't for the wedding, Poplar Fruit would have gone back a long time ago. It was rare for Zheng Yujie to come over. Poplar Fruit planned to bring her to other scenic spots in Guangdong province on the way back. He had promised her that when he was in America. However, this plan was disrupted by a phone call. The phone call came from when they were chatting in the room at night. Zheng Yujie went out to answer the call, and came back with a frown. What's wrong? Poplar Fruit asked. I have to go home. Zheng Yujie said apologetically to Poplar Fruit. Did something happen? Poplar Fruit asked curiously. Is it urgent? Zheng Yujie shook her head and said softly, it's nothing. My mom just called me and told me to go home. Zheng Yujie didn't want to tell Poplar Fruit the reason. The Li family came knocking. Li Zichao, that bastard. Since his scheme didn't work, he went straight to the Zheng family with his mother. Of course, they were here to denounce him. When they questioned Li Zichao about his engagement with Zheng Yujie, they also threw out a few photos of Zheng Yujie and Poplar Fruit, as well as photos of Poplar Fruit and other girls. This time, Grandpa Zheng was furious. He flew into a rage and ordered Zheng Yujie's mother to call Zheng Yujie back. As Grandpa Zheng got older, he started to care about his reputation and his family's reputation. Zheng Yujie's action could be said to have crossed 3 of the old man's bottom lines. The first was the issue of credibility. Zheng Yujie didn't even say anything and unilaterally broke the engagement with the Li family. Where was Grandpa Zheng's face? If word got out, wouldn't people say that Grandpa Zheng went back on his word? All the big and small families in Beijing would probably stab him in the back. The second was the issue of family benefits. As the eldest daughter of the Zheng family, Zheng Yujie should shoulder a part of the responsibility. How could she just find a random man and throw the family benefits aside? Grandpa Zheng had already planned Zheng Taiming's marriage before he came of age. Not to mention Zheng Yujie. The third was the problem with the man Zheng Yujie found. Of all the people she could have found, she just had to find a man with no money and no family background. Moreover, this man didn't look like a good person. Not only did he have affairs everywhere, he even had a child. Grandpa Zheng wasn't the only one who felt ashamed. Zheng Yujie's mother also felt that her daughter had gone too far. Being scolded by the younger generation of the Li family, referring to Li Zichao's mother. Old Master Zheng was so angry that he almost had a heart attack. In any case, he was so angry that he was about to die. After being scolded by her mother, Zheng Yujie didn't want to tell Poplar Fruit. She decided to go back and take responsibility for this matter herself. You're leaving now? Poplar Fruit looked out of the window in surprise. It was already pitch black. How could she leave in the middle of the night? This was a rural area, not a big city like Yangcheng. Zheng Yujie shook her head and said, I'm leaving tomorrow. Send me to the airport in the city. I'll take a flight back to Beijing from there. Zheng Yujie borrowed Poplar Fruit's computer to book a plane ticket. Of course, there were flights to Beijing in the city. Zheng Yujie flew there directly when she came over. The next day, Poplar Fruit and Zheng Yujie set off very early to send her to the airport in the city. Poplar Fruit could tell from Zheng Yujie's silence that Zheng Yujie was in big trouble this time. In fact, Poplar Fruit could vaguely guess the truth of the matter. It was just that he didn't know how to help. After all, this was Zheng Yujie's family matter. As an outsider, he couldn't interfere. In the end, it was time to say goodbye. Yang Gui carried her daughter and helped Zheng Yujie carry her small suitcase to the departure lounge. Not long after, they heard the announcement of the check-in. I'm going back. Zheng Yujie took her small suitcase. She was used to the tenderness in her firm eyes. She suppressed the trembling in her heart and pretended to be free and easy. This time, when she went back, she would face a trial that she had thought about but didn't expect to appear so early. This time, Zheng Yujie knew that she couldn't escape the storm in her family. She could only fight with indomitable will. This time, Zheng Yujie was really unsure. She couldn't predict the future and didn't dare to assert her ending. She also didn't know if she would see Poplar Fruit again in the future, because she knew that her grandfather was a stubborn person to the bone. Even if she fought with all her might, he might not necessarily take pity on her. If they used Poplar Fruit to threaten her, she really didn't know what choice she would make. Last night, Zheng Yujie woke up in the middle of the night, because she dreamed of the blue sky and the roofless land that was rapidly approaching. She didn't know. She really didn't know. Zheng Yujie hid the fear and uneasiness in her heart very deeply. She didn't show it on the way. However, in her reluctant glance, Poplar Fruit still saw a hint of something. The determination that accidentally leaked out. Poplar Fruit felt the pain in his heart. He took a deep breath, walked forward, and used his empty right hand to hold Zheng Yujie's shoulder as she turned around to leave. He said sincerely, "Wait a minute. Yujie, listen to me. No matter what happens, don't be impulsive. If you need me, just tell me." Poplar Fruit's words almost made Zheng Yujie cry. She turned her back to Poplar Fruit and took a deep breath to hold back the tears that were about to roll out. Turning around, Zheng Yujie already had a bright smile on her face. She tiptoed and patted Poplar Fruit's shoulder, pretending to be relaxed. She smiled and said, "Little Fruit, I haven't failed to the point where I need you to fight. It's not a big deal. What are you worried about?" She patted her bulging chest and said heroically, "In this world, there's nothing that can stump me. Just watch. Watch how I defeat these rascals." By the way, Zheng Yujie winked at Poplar Fruit and said, "You've already given me your translation. It seems that this time, when I go back, I'll win 2 rounds in a row." After that, Zheng Yujie turned around and walked to the ticket counter with her head held high. There was no farewell hug, nor was there any nonsense farewell kiss. She left so confidently and without any worries. Poplar Fruit stood in the same place and stared blankly at Zheng Yujie's figure disappearing behind the boarding gate. After a long time, Poplar Fruit shook his head gently and walked out with his daughter in his arms. The Land Rover sped along the flat and wide airport highway. Poplar Fruit heard a roar coming from above his head. He looked out of the window and saw a large plane whistling through the air, flying to the distant north. "Come on. You can do it, Yujie." Chapter 327. After returning to Yangcheng, Poplar Fruit received a call from He Wenjue before he even had the time to clean up. He Wenjue's deep and steady voice came through the phone. "Poplar Fruit, I'm back. What happened on your side?" He Wenjue's voice had a kind of magical power. Listening to it, you would feel that he was a solid shield that wouldn't bat an eyelid in the face of a landslide. No matter how big the problem was, he wouldn't panic. This was what Poplar Fruit lacked. Perhaps this was also related to his social experience. After all, he was still too young and didn't have much experience. Even though he had abilities that most people couldn't compare to, when he encountered problems or setbacks, he would first panic before he forced himself to calm down and think of a solution. A true powerhouse, when encountering a problem, would bravely face it head-on. Poplar Fruit was still a long way from being an expert. "Big brother, the matter has been settled," Poplar Fruit said with a smile. "I heard from your sister-in-law that you're in big trouble this time. How did you settle it?" Wenjua wasn't happy, but worried instead. He asked in a deep voice, "Where are you now? I want to meet you." When Poplar Fruit heard this, he understood that Wenjua thought that he had forgotten his words and used force to solve the problem. He hurriedly explained, "Big brother, listen to me. It's like this." Poplar Fruit didn't hide anything and told Wenjua the whole story. "Ha!" After Wenjua heard this, he was silent for a long time before he suddenly laughed out loud. "Not bad, not bad." "Big brother, what do you mean?" Poplar Fruit was confused by Wenjua's laughter. Wenjua laughed. "I knew it. You're talented and outstanding. You're a dragon among men. You won't be as ordinary as you were in the past. When I told your sister-in-law, she said that Poplar Fruit was a person who focused on learning and wasn't as complicated as you thought. See, I was right. You're gold. Wherever you go, you'll shine and blind the titanium dog eyes of others." Wenjua's words made Poplar Fruit not know whether to laugh or cry. However, he wasn't done yet. "Very good, very good. To be able to make the princess of a big family fall in love with you and make other families jealous. Poplar Fruit, you're amazing. Big brother supports you. Courageously chase after the one from the Zheng family." "Ha!" Wenjua laughed boldly on the phone. "Big brother, it's not what you think." Poplar Fruit didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "There's nothing between me and Wuxia. We're friends." He enunciated the word friends very clearly. "Then why do you still want to get involved?" At this moment, Wenjua couldn't laugh anymore. He asked seriously, "You have to know that if you didn't have the support of the Zheng family, even though the Li family has declined, dealing with an ordinary person like you with no background would be as easy as crushing an ant." "I know," Poplar Fruit said in a low voice. In the past month, Poplar Fruit had felt the power of political power. "But Wuxia is my good friend. I can't watch her get pushed into the fire pit. Oh, this will be very troublesome for you." Wenjua pondered. "Why don't you come to our army to avoid the limelight? Once you come in, you'll be a special organization. You'll only belong to the Supreme Military Commission. Even God can't do anything to you." Poplar Fruit shook his head and said, "No need. I'll deal with whatever comes my way. I'm not afraid. To be honest, if it's one-on-one, I really want to punch that sissy. Let's see if he still dares to bully me." Suddenly, Poplar Fruit came to his senses. He frowned and asked, "Big brother, that's not right. You have an ulterior motive. You're not trying to scare me and trick me into joining the army, are you?" Wenjua wasn't ashamed that his little scheme was discovered. Instead, he laughed and said, "You found out. Well, indeed, our army has been wanting to recruit you for a long time. Old Meng has been talking about you every day. He wants to practice with you again. Big brother Xiong and the others have been practicing their strength. They keep asking me when you're coming. They want to regain their face." "What about big brother Zhengdong? Doesn't he want to practice shooting with me?" Poplar Fruit asked with a smile. He doesn't have the time to talk about you," Wenjua said with a smile. "Recently, he's been eyeing a female soldier in the logistics department. He's been trying to please her." "I'm serious. What's the point of studying in front of a computer every day? Why don't you come to our army? You can go abroad often to do missions. A real man has to fight for his life on the battlefield. That way, you won't have lived in vain these few years," Wenjua advised earnestly. "Big brother, forget it," Poplar Fruit said apologetically. "My ambition doesn't lie here. I just want to live an ordinary life. I want to make achievements in my field that will attract the attention of the world. That's enough." "You want to live an ordinary life?" Wenjua shook his head and said with a smile, "That's impossible. I just said that you're a piece of gold that will shine wherever you go. I wasn't trying to trick you. With your qualifications and ability, you'll definitely be a famous person in the future." Being ordinary is already a thing of the past for you. Let's not talk about this anymore. Who knows what will happen in the future? Poplar Fruit smiled and changed the topic. Oh yeah, big brother, I still have to thank you. Wenjue was a little discouraged when he failed to kidnap Poplar Fruit. He laid on the big sofa and asked curiously, "Thank me for what? If you didn't teach me how to shoot last month, I would have died in the United States when I went abroad this time," Poplar Fruit said with emotion. Wenjue got up from the sofa and asked, "What? What do you mean?" "When I was in the United States, Kiki and I met an assassin at a friend's house." Poplar Fruit casually told Wenjue about how he met the assassin and killed him with only one bullet, as if he was telling someone else's story. Of course, Poplar Fruit still hid some details appropriately. For example, he was able to see the assassin's movements at the bottom of the stairs by closing his eyes. These were all a little strange, so Poplar Fruit kept some of them to himself. One bullet. Wenjue wasn't going to make a fuss about Poplar Fruit killing someone with a gun. Instead, he was surprised by Poplar Fruit's battle record. He patted his thigh and said, "It's still a headshot, right?" The last question was asked in a very confident tone. He didn't wait for Poplar Fruit to answer and said with emotion, TSK, this psychological quality, this reaction on the battlefield, and this marksmanship. Poplar Fruit, it's a pity that you didn't come to our army." Okay, Poplar Fruit didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Big brother, don't keep thinking about dragging me to the army. I won't go anyway. But you can tell me a time, and I'll come over to be your training partner for free." "Okay. It's a deal. It's a deal." Wenjue didn't expect Poplar Fruit to follow him obediently. When he heard Poplar Fruit say that, he laughed out loud. "Everyone use your votes to support the poor. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 328. After getting off the plane, Zheng Yujie did not dare to go home directly. Instead, she ran to her house and called Zheng Taiming over. At this time, Zheng Yujie's mother, Deng Baoyan, could be said to be filled with dark clouds. Zheng Taiming did not dare to touch the minefield and stayed at home safely. But his sister called for him, so Zheng Taiming had to sneak out of the house. He wore a hat and sneaked out like a spy. "Come in." Seeing Zheng Taiming, Zheng Yujie was not in a good mood. She twisted Zheng Taiming's ear and dragged him into the house. "Ouch, ouch, sister, my ear is going to break," Zheng Taiming said with a long face. Zheng Yujie threw Zheng Taiming on the sofa, then domineeringly raised her leg and stepped on the sofa's armrest. Leaning down, she pointed her left index finger at Zheng Taiming's nose and angrily roared, "Speak." Zheng Taiming raised his hands and asked with a bitter face, "Speak. Speak what?" His voice was trembling because of Zheng Yujie. "I'm your sister." Zheng Yujie sharply stared at Zheng Taiming and asked, "Why did you cheat me?" "I didn't cheat you." Zheng Taiming was about to cry. "Really, after the last time at the airport, I didn't contact Li Zichao. I listened to you. This time, I didn't know that he came," Zheng Taiming quickly said. "I'm not talking about this." Zheng Yujie pushed Zheng Taiming's head and angrily said, "Last year, I asked you to send something to Poplar Fruit. What did you say?" "No, nothing." Zheng Taiming squirmed his mouth and said, "You're still being stubborn?" Zheng Yujie's eyes widened and said, "Tell me, when did I get engaged? When did I have a childhood sweetheart husband?" Zheng Taiming understood that his sister knew everything. He did not dare to continue being stubborn and said with a long face, "I was doing it for your own good. Moreover, you also have an engagement." "Marriage my ass," Zheng Yujie cursed and said. "When I was about to get engaged 2 years ago, I made it clear that this engagement is not valid. But you can't look for that Poplar Fruit." At this time, Zheng Taiming said earnestly, "You know what kind of family we are. Not only did you find an ordinary person, but you also found a man with a child. Didn't I want him to back off?" "What do you know?" Zheng Yujie pushed Zheng Taiming's head and said, "Poplar Fruit is not ordinary except for his family background. Tell me, among all the men you know, have you ever seen anyone at Poplar Fruit's age who could achieve such results without relying on anyone else? There are still plenty of them. Men in their 20s who have earned hundreds of millions of yuan." Zheng Taiming said, unconvinced. Can you not mention that stupid money to me? Zhang Yujie said speechlessly. In terms of moral character, how is poplar fruit worse than those playboys? Hey sister, you can't justify this, can you? Zhang Taiming said with a smile. I think poplar fruit and Li Zichao are not good people. He has several women, and you still say that he is good? Zhang Yujie was going crazy. She scolded. Why do you believe Li Zichao's nonsense? I tell you, those photos are all lies. Poplar fruit and those women are all friends. Have you seen him being intimate with any of them? No, Zhang Taiming muttered. His reason was not valid, and his voice was much lower. If he is the same type of person as Li Zichao, why is he indifferent when I have already thrown myself into his arms? Zhang Yujie said. I often stay in the same room with him, and he has never touched me. Wait, throw yourself into his arms? Zhang Taiming looked at his sister, stunned, and asked in surprise, Sister, when did you become so unreserved? This is not your style. Yes, a great beauty like Zhang Yujie with a queen-like personality has always been at the feet of men begging to kneel and lick. Using the word, throw yourself into his arms, on Zhang Yujie, Zhang Taiming was really surprised. Zhang Yujie blushed and said with a stiff neck, Yes, don't I have the right to pursue the person I like? Impossible. Zhang Taiming shook his head and said. Although Zhang Yujie's temper was a bit bad, he knew his sister's charm. How can he not have any thoughts? He has, but he can restrain himself. Zhang Yujie thought of poplar fruit's hurried release when they kissed, and her heart felt a little sweet. That can only be said to be loosening the reins only to grasp them better. He wants you and more. Zhang Taiming shook his head and said. Men are all like this. You are all like this, but poplar fruit is not. Zhang Yujie said firmly. Anyway, I am dead set on following him, but he still won't accept me. It's all because of you. Zhang Yujie once again pointed the spearhead at Zhang Taiming and said. If it weren't for your nonsense, he wouldn't have thought that I have a fiancé. Now I am chasing him, but it's me who is flirting with him. How can he think like that? Zhang Taiming jumped up as if his tail was stepped on. It's me who thinks like that. Zhang Yujie pushed Zhang Taiming back, and she angrily said, Don't change the subject, it's all your fault. No matter if I'm wrong or not, you can't be together with that poplar fruit. He also has a daughter. Zhang Taiming earnestly advised. I don't care. Zhang Yujie raised her head and resolutely said, Our family cares. Zhang Taiming sighed and said, Do you remember what you told me? You said that since we were born into this big family, we shouldn't think about love. We have to follow the path that Father has drawn for us and walk forward step by step. The rise and fall of the family is closely related to each and every one of us. Zhang Yujie was silent. Do you think our family will let you and that poplar fruit continue to develop? Zhang Taiming said. You've grown up. Withdrawing her foot, Zhang Yujie looked at Zhang Taiming with a complicated expression and said, You've begun to understand how to think about problems. This sister is very pleased. Zhang Yujie sat beside Zhang Taiming, her left arm resting on Zhang Taiming's shoulder, and gently said, Although I understand that this is almost impossible, I will still fight. You may not understand, but this time I, your sister, have really met my Mr. Right. I don't care if he accepts me or not, or if my family agrees or not, I will only marry him. At this time, Zhang Taiming's mood was somewhat complicated. On one hand, he was thinking about the pressure and obstacles that his sister would face in the future. On the other hand, he was also thinking about poplar fruit, a man who actually gave him a good impression. Zhang Taiming let out a long sigh. He hugged his sister, patted her, and said, Sister, don't worry, no matter what decision you make, I will support you. Chapter 329. Infinity and Taiji. Taiji's movement gives birth to yang. Extreme movement gives birth to stillness. Stillness gives birth to yin. Extreme stillness gives birth to movement. One movement and one stillness. They are each other's roots, dividing yin and yang. Two polarities exist. This was how Zhou Dunyi explained Taiji. And poplar fruit, after practicing Taiji's inner strength, had a deeper understanding of it. When he circulated his cultivation technique at night, poplar fruit would feel that his body would produce a surge of yuan qi out of thin air, channeling into the yuan qi stream in his meridians. This kind of yuan qi seemed to originate from the void, but also seemed to be a part of his body. It looked very ordinary, but it was ever-changing according to his thoughts. When he meditated, it would transform into yuan qi that emitted the aura of life, nourishing his meridians and body. Even his tired spirit would gradually regain its radiance. Recently, Poplar Fruit had discovered that the yuan qi at this time could be used to treat injuries and illnesses. The injury on Kiki's face, Poplar Fruit used 2 days to heal it back to its original state. Afterwards, on the way back to Yangcheng, perhaps because of the long journey, Kiki caught a little cold, sneezing nonstop. Poplar Fruit only used his yuan qi to nurse Kiki back to health at night. When she woke up the next day, she had recovered her health. Of course, it wasn't just the yuan qi of life. When he was practicing his fist, if Poplar Fruit imagined an enemy, then the yuan qi would transform into a fierce yang qi and a soft yin qi. When it was fierce, it could destroy stone tablets, and when it was soft, the body was soft as if it had no bones, making it hard for others to grasp. As for whether he could fight or not, Poplar Fruit wasn't very concerned. Because when Poplar Fruit woke up early in the morning, he was shocked to find that the yuan qi that he had left behind when he was grooming his daughter's body last night had actually stayed. Not only that, it had also started to follow the path that he had groomed yesterday and slowly flowed through Kiki's meridians. It was as if it had become a part of Kiki's body. Poplar Fruit was ecstatic. This was a good thing. Although it was said that good things should be kept a secret, for Poplar Fruit he didn't need to keep any secrets in front of Kiki. He had wanted to wait for Kiki to grow up before teaching her. Who would have thought that by chance, his yuan qi would be able to circulate within Kiki's body? Of course, this operating speed was too slow compared to the Poplar Fruit. However, since he was just starting out, Poplar Fruit didn't have high expectations. He didn't even go for his morning exercise. He carefully carried his daughter back to the big bed, and then sat cross-legged beside her. Yesterday, when he was combing his daughter's body, he didn't circulate his vital energy completely. Because he was mainly focusing on Kiki's small cold, his vital energy was only flowing slowly around Kiki's heart and lungs. Poplar Fruit sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. His hands moved in front of his body, and he drew out a strand of vital energy from his dantian, and stuck it on his right index and middle finger. His right hand formed a sword finger, and pointed towards the position where the vital energy was flowing. He frowned as he realized that his vital energy seemed to be a little different from Kiki's vital energy. He couldn't inject his vital energy into her body. Looks like his idea of using excessive force to help her grow was dashed. Kiki's vital energy had already merged with Kiki's mark. It no longer belonged to Poplar Fruit. However, the good news was that under the guidance of Poplar Fruit's vital energy, Kiki's weak vital energy was circulating at a slightly faster speed. At least, it wasn't slow to the point where it would drive Poplar Fruit crazy. Then Poplar Fruit guided this strand of vital energy to circulate on the correct path. It was still too slow. Poplar Fruit's vital energy only needed about 5 minutes to circulate in his body. But Kiki's round took a total of 48 minutes for Poplar Fruit. One must know that Kiki's meridian system was much smaller than Poplar Fruit's. This caused Poplar Fruit to use up nearly half of his vital energy. Let's take a break. Poplar Fruit wiped his sweat as he thought to himself. This job was indeed a little tiring. However, after he rested for more than 10 minutes, he was surprised to find that although Kiki's vital energy circulation speed had returned to its original state, its circulation path was exactly the same as what Poplar Fruit had previously guided. This made Poplar Fruit smack his lips. What kind of memory was this? She was able to memorize it after walking it once in an unconscious state? Moreover, Poplar Fruit found that Kiki was the same as him. Even if she wasn't seriously meditating, her vital energy could circulate on its own. He was really looking forward to how powerful Kiki's Tai Chi internal strength would be when she grew up. Poplar Fruit smiled as he looked at Kiki, who was still sucking her pinky while sleeping. Poplar Fruit himself was already very abnormal. He became a monk halfway through his cultivation, and in just over a year, he had already embarked on the path of pursuing the Grandmaster realm. Kiki was still so young, her future achievements would definitely be greater than her father's. After Kiki woke up, Poplar Fruit found that his daughter's spirit was much better, especially those big watery eyes. They were like two exquisite and pure black gems, untainted by worldly aura. She was really cute. At noon, when Poplar Fruit was busy washing rice and cooking, Song Jiwen smelled the fragrance and came over. Go away, don't bite my shoes. Chapter 330. On the other hand, in Beijing, after a night of hesitation, Zheng Yujie still braced herself to go home. Zheng Yujie's home was in a place called Xishan Courtyard, one of the most mysterious places in Beijing. Because the people who lived here were all famous figures in the political arena since the founding of China. Not to mention the need to check and register, almost every corner was guarded and strictly monitored. It could be said that the security was so tight that not even a fly could fly in. Zheng Yujie's car was not blocked, but she did not dare to directly drive home. Instead, she parked in the public parking lot of Xishan Courtyard. After turning off the engine, Zheng Yujie sat in the driver's seat, her body slightly trembling. After a long time, she gritted her teeth, unbuckled her seatbelt, and got out of the car. She thought to herself, horizontal is a knife, vertical is also a knife, I have to face it. Where are you going? Zheng Yujie tiptoed through the door, and then wanted to sneak upstairs to her room. At this time, a voice that was not very loud but very clear sounded. Zheng Yujie, who was holding her shoes and bending over, suddenly froze. Zheng Yujie's expression stiffened as she turned around, squeezed out a smile, and said, Mom! In your eyes, do you still have a mother like me? Deng Baoyan put down the teacup, then gently placed her hands on her knees, looked at Zheng Yujie, sighed and asked. Zheng Yujie quickly ran to Deng Baoyan's side and sat down. Holding her hand, she said fawningly, Mom, how can I not have you in my eyes? Then why did you lie to me? Why did you hide it from me? Deng Baoyan was unmoved as she patted the armrest of the sofa and asked with some pain in her heart. Tell me, who did you go to Guangdong province to find? A friend. Zheng Yujie said in a low voice. Over 60 years old? Deng Baoyan took out a photo, patted it, stared at her and asked. This is your friend who is over 60 years old? Zheng Yujie didn't need to look to know the content of the photo. She muttered. I'm sorry, but he's really my friend from work. Is it really just work? Deng Baoyan said angrily. Then don't go to the publishing house. I'll give you another job. What kind of friends do you have? Why? Zheng Yujie said anxiously. It wasn't easy for me to make some achievements. What right do you have to say that you won't do it for me? Based on the fact that you and this Yonggua have an ambiguous relationship. Deng Baoyan slapped the table and said harshly. If I hadn't asked your Auntie Pang, she would have kept it from me forever. Tell me, how long have you been with him? You even went to Yangcheng several times to look for him. Mom, what are you thinking about? Zheng Yujie held Deng Baoyan's hand and said coquettishly, I'm really not in a relationship with him. You don't have to act with me. Do you think that I don't understand you? If you're not in a relationship, then why would the Li family mobilize so many people to make things difficult for me and your grandfather? Deng Baoyan asked. If you're not in a relationship, then do you need to use our family's relationship to protect that brat? All right. Zheng Yujie shook off Deng Baoyan's hand and sat to the side as she muttered. I'll be honest with you. Your daughter has taken a liking to him, but he hasn't agreed to it yet. So from a technical point of view, our relationship isn't in a relationship. Zheng Yujie told Deng Baoyan this because she knew that in the entire family, her mother was the easiest to talk to. Although Deng Baoyan's words were sharp, her heart was the softest. Since young, Zheng Yujie and Deng Baoyan had the closest relationship. When the two of them went shopping, they would always hug each other's hands like they were best friends. This brat still wants to loosen the reins only to grasp them better. He's very resourceful. Deng Baoyan didn't buy it. She sneered and said, That's good. You can break off this ambiguous relationship with him and pretend that this never happened. No. Zheng Yujie cried out involuntarily. Do you still want to continue with a man who already has a child? Deng Baoyan stared and said, I'll put aside his family background and economic conditions. He's already married. How can you be so stupid? Mom, it's not what you think. Poplar Fruit has never been married. Zhang Yujie took Deng Baoyan's hand and told her about Poplar Fruit's bizarre experience. So don't look at him like other divorced men. Besides, what's wrong with having a child? Zhang Yujie said with dissatisfaction. If I have a child, I can have one less. No matter how difficult it was, Poplar Fruit never left Kiki. This shows that he's a sentimental man, and will definitely treat me well in the future. So what if I have a child? I can treat her as my own child. How can you say such silly things? Deng Baoyan said anxiously. Which woman doesn't want her own child? Would someone else's child be the same? Okay, I'm not talking about the child. Deng Baoyan waved her hand and said, I think you said that he's sentimental. He's already flirting everywhere. Can he still be considered sentimental? Those are his friends. Zhang Yujie said unhappily. Don't look at the photos that Li Zichao brought over. He found someone to take them. The angle is a problem. Even if you were to go shopping and meet an auntie, you could still have a romantic encounter. If it weren't for timing, we would have been together a long time ago. Zhang Yujie told Deng Baoyan about the misunderstanding, feeling wronged. However, she didn't tell her that the person that Poplar Fruit liked now was someone else and not her. Zhang Yujie knew that if she said that, it would be a dead end. I don't understand. Deng Baoyan shook her head and said, What's so good about him? Except that he's good-looking. It has nothing to do with his appearance. Zhang Yujie hugged Deng Baoyan's waist and whispered to her about how she fell in love with Poplar Fruit. She even told her about how Poplar Fruit helped her wash her underwear in the hotel in Beijing last year. Anyway, I know that I won't meet a man who will take care of me so carefully in my life. I love him. In this life, I've decided on him. Zhang Yujie curled up in her mother's arms. Silly girl. Deng Baoyan reached out and combed Zhang Yujie's hair. She sighed and said, There are good men everywhere. Why did you fall in love with this one? You know that your father and grandfather will definitely not agree to it. Who hadn't been young? Deng Baoyan had also been in love when she was young. Her love had been vigorous, but she hadn't been firm. Later, she had been separated by her family and married Zheng Mingsheng. Just like that, she had lived a peaceful life for decades. Occasionally, when she thought about the memories of her youth, the faint regret couldn't be anesthetized by alcohol. Chapter 331. During this meal, Zhang Yujie had a very depressed mood. Zhang Jianhua's grandfather was in his 80s this year. His body was weak and he needed someone to serve him. However, he was very energetic and could eat and drink. Usually he would drink a small cup of Maotai every night. However, he didn't drink or eat much today. He didn't say a word and didn't even look at Zhang Yujie. Zhang Yujie knew in her heart that this was the prelude to her grandfather's anger. Therefore, she had to be very careful when she picked up the food, afraid that she would break the tight string. Zhang Taiming was even more frightened. He buried his head in the food, and only dared to pick up the food in front of him. People who didn't know would think that the bitter gourd fried egg in front of him was delicious. Anyway, no one ate to their heart's content today. Zhang Taiming was a little envious of his cousins who went abroad with their parents. They didn't have to look at their grandfather every day, whom they were especially afraid of since they were young. After the meal, the accompanying staff was about to come up, but Zhang Yujie ran to Zhang Jianhua's side first and carefully helped her grandfather up. Zhang Jianhua was expressionless. Step by step, with Zhang Yujie's help, he walked to the armchair in the living room and sat down. He didn't like modern sofas, so his family specially made an armchair with a soft cushion to protect him from the cold. Don't run away. You come here too. Deng Baoyan grabbed Zhang Taiming, who was sneaking upstairs like a thief, and pulled him into the living room. Sit down, Zhang Jianhua said in a vicissitude voice. His voice exuded the majesty of someone in a superior position. With the old man's order, Deng Baoyan and Zhang Taiming dared to sit down on the sofa. However, Zhang Yujie didn't sit down. She stood beside her grandfather and said, Grandpa, I know that I made you angry. I'm sorry. Zhang Yujie didn't want to admit defeat first and then fight back. She was really worried that her grandfather would be angry in his heart. When the time came, he would provoke her again and something bad would happen. I'm old. I can't be angry. No one listens to my words. Zheng Jianhua sighed deeply. No. Grandpa, I will always remember your words in my heart. Zheng Yujie said sadly in a low voice. You're still quibbling? Zheng Jianhua slapped the armchair hard and said. They've already come to question you. You've brought shame to our family. Are you going to admit it now? What right does he have to condemn me? Zheng Yujie said indignantly. What right does the Li family have to meddle in our Zheng family's affairs? Yujie stopped talking. Deng Baoyan saw that Zheng Jianhua's face was getting worse and worse, so she hurriedly said, After all, you are engaged. Grandpa, didn't we cancel our engagement 2 years ago? Zheng Yujie said, feeling wronged. Grandpa, you should have heard about what kind of person Li Zichao is. In the past 2 years, he has become worse. Why do you still want to push me into the fire pit? What do you know? Zheng Jianhua shouted. Which man doesn't like to play? Don't they all settle down after getting married? If you marry him, you'll be fulfilling the promise between me and your grandpa Li. Besides, marrying into the Li family is better than marrying a useless man. Before Zheng Yujie could refute, a guard came in and said, Elder Zheng, the gatekeeper said that the Li family is here. Speaking of the devil, Jiang Likun got the news that Zheng Yujie was back. She couldn't wait to bring Li Zichao here. She wanted to use the Zheng family's old man to force Zheng Yujie to submit. Zheng Jianhua's eyes flashed with a trace of displeasure. The Li family repeatedly came to question him. They were too impatient. They were really women. They didn't even follow the rules. However, since they were already here, Zheng Jianhua couldn't close the door. He waved his hand and said, Let them in. Grandpa, Zheng Yujie anxiously said. Why did you let them in? I don't want to marry him. Shut up. Zheng Jianhua was unhappy. He turned his head and scolded her harshly. As soon as he said that, Deng Baoyan and Zheng Taiming both shut their mouths. They didn't dare to breathe loudly. However, Zheng Yujie wouldn't do that. Although her grandpa's dignity was frightening, at this moment, she was as stubborn as a blade of grass that wouldn't be blown away by a storm. She looked at Zheng Jianhua with a firm and resolute gaze, expressing her thoughts. The atmosphere in the room froze. It was like the eve of a storm. It was so oppressive that it made people panic. At this time, Jiang Likun walked in arrogantly with Li Zichao. She glanced at Zheng Yujie, who was standing there as if she was being judged. Then she put on a smile and greeted Zheng Jianhua warmly. After all, Zheng Jianhua was of the older generation. They didn't dare to ignore him. After all, the Li family had declined. They had to pretend to respect him. Sit down. Zheng Jianhua waved his hand and said. Soon, the nanny brought out the tea. Zheng Yujie held her head high and didn't even look at them. She found a place to sit down. Jiang Likun said with a smile, Grandpa, when I came here the day before yesterday, I couldn't help but say a lot of unpleasant things. I'm really sorry. Likun apologizes to you here. Zheng Jianhua's face softened a little. He waved his hand and said, It's nothing. What you said was very pertinent. It's our family's fault for not educating her well. Speaking of which, I'm ashamed of Brother Li. Zheng Yujie turned her head and didn't say anything. Haha, Grandpa. What are you talking about? How can you blame the child for making a mistake? Besides, it's not like things have reached the point of no return. Jiang Likun covered her mouth and laughed. I didn't know that Xiao Jie was so willful and brought trouble to your family. In the future, don't worry. I'll ask Baoyan to teach her a lesson. I promise it won't happen again. Zheng Jianhua said. Jiang Likun smiled and looked at Deng Baoyan, who was a little stiff. Then she said, In fact, it's not that serious of a mistake, right? Yujie? Zheng Yujie didn't even pay attention to her. She tilted her head and closed her mouth. Jiang Likun didn't care. She turned to Zheng Jianhua and said with a smile, I went back because I thought about it. In fact, the child is still young. A little mistake can be forgiven. Who didn't make mistakes when we were young? As long as Yujie changes her mind, we think it's fine to keep this matter under wraps. If it causes an uproar, both our families will lose face. Zheng Jianhua nodded slightly. Then Jiang Likun threw out a heavy bomb. Xiao Chao likes Yujie very much. He often talks about how good Yujie is. Our family discussed and felt that we should let bygones be bygones. We still have to look forward. Grandpa, I think, why don't we discuss a time and let Xiao Chao and Yujie confirm this marriage contract? Zheng Yujie suddenly jumped up. She pointed at Jiang Likun and Li Zichao angrily and said, "In your dreams, I won't marry him even if I die. Everyone, use your votes to smash the poor. Greater than over equal to." Chapter 332. Zheng Yujie yelled with all her strength. After yelling, she gasped for breath and glared at the mother and son of the Li family with hatred. She had never seen such a shameless person before. Zheng Yujie didn't expect that the woman would still be able to smile and put all the blame on her when she didn't give them any face at all. She even shamelessly said that she had forgiven her. It was ridiculous, but Zheng Yujie couldn't laugh. Instead, she felt more and more sorry for herself. Why did he have to be born into a big family and be pushed forward step by step, unable to resist his own tragic fate? No, Zheng Yujie screamed in her heart. Even if I die, I won't. Hearing Zheng Yujie's angry shout, the atmosphere in the living room became awkward. Zheng Jianhua's face was full of anger, and he looked like a volcano that was about to erupt. The Li family members all had different expressions. Li Zichao glared at Zheng Yujie with resentment, while Jiang Likun opened her mouth but didn't say anything. She rolled her eyes and seemed to be thinking about something. With a creak, the door was pushed open, and a middle-aged man carrying a briefcase walked in. He looked a little like Zheng Jianhua, but more mature and elegant. Looking at his face, he always gave people a sense of dignity. "Dad." Zheng Taiming, who was looking around in boredom, suddenly stood up and shouted, "Why are you back?" Yes, this was Zheng Yujie's father, the rising star of the Zheng family, the second pillar of the family, Zheng Mingsheng. The Li family was on the decline. Jiang Likun was so anxious for Li Zichao to marry Zheng Yujie, because she wanted to ride on Zheng Mingsheng's coattails. Therefore, when she saw Zheng Mingsheng, she beamed with joy and flattered him to the extreme. "Why are you all standing? Sit down." Zheng Mingsheng put down his briefcase with a smile and sat down on the sofa next to Zheng Jianhua. Seeing Zheng Mingsheng, Zheng Jianhua relaxed slightly and asked, "It's not a special day today. What are you doing here?" "Dad, there are some big projects in the province. I'm here to fight for financial support from the central government." Zheng Mingsheng smiled. "It's good that you're back. Teach your good daughter a lesson." He was infuriated by what Zheng Yujie had just said. Originally, it would have been best for both of them to take a step back. However, Zheng Yujie's words put everyone in an awkward position. Grandpa Zheng felt so ashamed that he didn't even know how to face the Zheng family. Zheng Mingsheng pondered for a moment and asked, "Baoyan, what's going on now?" Deng Baoyan sighed and said, "It's still the same, just like what I told you on the phone." Jiang Likun interrupted with an apologetic smile. "I'd like you to be the judge." "Oh, tell me about it." Zheng Mingsheng raised his eyes and said slowly, "I'm just a woman. If I'm wrong, please don't blame me." Jiang Likun sat up straight and smiled. "Big sister Baoyan has already told you about it, so I won't repeat it. Today, I'm here to convey my family's consideration to Grandpa Zheng. Originally, we thought that it was a private matter between our families, so we didn't need to reveal it to the public. That's why we only came to tell Grandpa Gu about it. Am I right?" Jiang Likun smiled. Zheng Mingsheng gently nodded his head. Jiang Likun continued happily, as if she had been encouraged. "After we went back, we thought about it and felt that the child was too young and immature. We couldn't blame her for that. So we thought about what had happened in the past. If it was in the past, then let it go. Our two families have been on good terms since the generation of the old man. There was no need to ruin the relationship between our two families because of such a small matter. Little Chao has liked Yujie since he was young. Furthermore, this marriage is still in place. Let's discuss a date to settle this matter. After the marriage, won't our families become in-laws? Won't our relationship become closer?" Jiang Likun's face suddenly became aggrieved as she said, "But I just made this suggestion, and Yujie pointed at me and scolded me. She even said that she would rather die than marry my little Chao. Is my little Chao that bad? How can he not be compared to that playboy who has no money?" He can't be compared to him in any way. Zhang Yujie heard this and became even angrier. Her eyes were about to spit fire. She turned her head and said, "Dad, don't listen to them. Poplar fruit is very outstanding. Li Zichao can't even compare to his little finger." You're trying to anger me to death." Zhang Jianhua pointed at Zhang Yujie and said while panting heavily. All right, Yujie, stop talking." Zhang Mingxing glanced at Zhang Yujie with an irrefutable majesty in his eyes. He stood up, patted Zhang Jianhua's back, and said gently, "Dad, don't worry. Take a rest. I'm back. Let me handle this, okay?" After saying that, Zhang Mingxing took the warm tea from the caregiver, opened the lid, and handed it to Grandpa Zhang. With his back to the Li family, he winked at Grandpa Zhang. Zhang Jianhua looked at Zhang Mingxing in surprise. He didn't understand Zhang Mingxing's unusual behavior, but he still nodded slowly. Although Zhang Jianhua was still the head of the Zhang family, the achievements of his eldest son, who he was most proud of, had far surpassed him. Moreover, in politics, Zhang Mingxing was very mature. He was no longer the young village official who needed to listen to his teachings. Therefore, when he saw Zhang Mingxing winking, Zhang Jianhua knew that the situation had changed. He chose to believe in Zhang Mingxing and let him handle this matter. "Yes, you can be the judge," Jiang Likun said with a smile. Zhang Mingxing came to Zhang Yujie's side and sat down on the sofa. He said unhurriedly, "My daughter really didn't do well in this matter." As Grandpa Zhang said as a father, "I didn't educate my daughter well. I'm really sorry. Dad, you don't have to apologize to them," Zhang Yujie said with red eyes. "You're not allowed to talk now. Listen to me." Zhang Mingxing glared at her and said without allowing her to say anything, "These 2 days are free of charge. Everyone's subscriptions are free. Then it will start from next Monday and last for a week. Let me give you a preview. It will be 10 chapters on Monday and Tuesday, 6 chapters on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, and 4 chapters on Saturday and Sunday. After that, it will return to normal. Xiaohan won't have a lot of chapters because Xiaohan is very busy in real life. I believe many readers know that. In order to make everyone happy, Xiaohan has prepared for a long time. During this period of time, he has been seriously lacking sleep. Since Xiaohan is so sincere, everyone please vote for him. Love you all greater than over equal to. Chapter 333. I was there when Uncle Li and my father made a marriage contract, Zhang Mingxing said with a smile. The elders made a marriage contract, which is a good wish for the children. Jiang Likun heard this and smiled. She patted Li Zichao's thigh and said, "Yes, when my father was still alive he loved little Chao the most. It's a pity that I didn't get to see little Chao get married. Otherwise it would be even better." Zhang Yujie sat on the side angrily and looked at the ground with her head lowered. Her eyes were full of anger, as if there were ants on the ground carrying their shoes away. Zhang Mingxing smiled and said, "Yes, your father passed away early. It's a pity. But don't we still have you now? Likun, you're now concerned about little Chao and little Jie's marriage. That's also a show of love." "Secretary Zhang, you flatter me." Jiang Likun couldn't close her mouth from smiling. But Zhang Mingxing suddenly changed the topic and said with a smile, "Li Kun, I still have to criticize you." "Secretary Zhang, please say." Jiang Likun was still smiling happily, thinking that Zhang Mingxing was just joking. "As parents, it's good that we care about our children's marriage happiness." Zhang Mingxing sat on the back of the sofa, one hand leaning on the back of the sofa and gently waving it. He said with the attitude of a leader, "But what we should do is to guide them rationally. We shouldn't be like the feudal superstitions of the past and want to do everything by ourselves. That's not right." Jiang Likun's smile froze. She just grinned and revealed a few teeth. She didn't smile as happily as before. "What era are we in now?" Zhang Mingxing's tone was not heavy at all. "It's been 12 years since the new century, and the country legislated 10 years ago to ensure children's freedom of marriage. We shouldn't still tie ourselves to the old ideas." Zhang Mingxing said so sincerely and with so much regret that Jiang Likun couldn't even continue to fake a smile. Zhang Yujie raised her head and looked at her father in disbelief. Zheng Mingxing often spoke in a bureaucratic tone on TV, but at home, he was a serious parent. Zheng Yujie didn't expect Zheng Mingxing to speak in a bureaucratic tone on this matter. Moreover, he even set a point of view that was almost impossible to appear in the Zheng family. In fact, not only Zheng Yujie, even Grandpa Zheng Jianhua, Deng Baoyan, and Zheng Taiming were staring at Zheng Mingxing as if he were an alien. Zheng Mingxing didn't seem to notice at all. He smiled and continued. I think that Brother Li, who is also a party member, should have the same point of view as me. If we, as leaders, don't set a good example, how can we have a foothold among the people? How could he govern for the people? Don't you agree? Jiang Likun really wanted to say, it's your head. But Zheng Mingxing gave her too much pressure, so she could only open her mouth and force a smile. Zheng Mingxing's shock hadn't ended yet. He reached out his left hand and patted Zheng Yujie's shoulder. He continued, I understand Xiao Jie's thoughts. After all, we are parents. As parents, we must respect our children's opinions and communicate with them. If she strongly disagrees, then I think that a forcibly picked melon won't be sweet. Jiang Likun finally couldn't help but say, Secretary Zheng, I understand what you're saying. We should respect our children's choice and let them have the freedom to marry, but we can't let her go to that playboy. I don't know if Sister Baoyan told you about those photos, but that poplar fruit is really not a good person. He has several women outside and has a child. If it weren't for him, Jiang Likun said proudly, I think Xiao Jie would understand our arrangement. Xiao Chao is very outstanding among the children in the capital. Zheng Yujie sneered and said, Him? Outstanding? Forget it. Since young, I've never felt that he was outstanding. Deng Baoyan tugged at Zheng Yujie's sleeve, and she shut her mouth. Likun, you're right. Zheng Mingxing continued to smile and said, In terms of marriage, we were indeed busy with work and didn't handle it well. In the future, I will properly check on Xiao Jie. The freedom to marry that I'm talking about, of course, has to be built on the premise of a happy marriage. Without the approval and blessings of parents and family, how can this kind of marriage be happy? Jiang Likun opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but Zheng Mingxing didn't give her a chance to speak. His voice was very gentle, but it had an irresistible authority. Regarding Xiao Jie and Xiao Chao's marriage, I think we shouldn't mention it anymore. There are still many good girls in the capital. Xiao Chao, you don't have to worry. I'll let Auntie Baoyan find a good girl for Xiao Chao. Deng Baoyan also smiled and said, That's right, Likun. Let me tell you, I've been matchmaking for the young people in my unit, and I've never failed. Leave Xiao Chao to me. You can absolutely rest assured. Zheng Mingxing's rejection was very obvious. Jiang Likun's face was very pale at the moment, but she still didn't give up. Forcing a smile, Jiang Likun looked at Zheng Jianhua and said, Grandpa, this marriage agreement was made between you and Xiao Chao's grandfather. Isn't it bad to cancel it like this? Zheng Jianhua was surprised at the beginning, but later he lowered his eyelids, as if he was resting and listening quietly. Hearing Jiang Likun's question, Zheng Jianhua remained motionless. After a while, he slowly raised his eyelids. His voice wasn't loud, and his speed wasn't fast, but he said very firmly, Mingxing's idea is my idea. The older people get, the more muddle-headed they become. I've been with the GC party for so many years, but I'm still living in the old era. I think if Brother Li was still here, he would definitely scold me for being stubborn. Alas! Zheng Jianhua slightly raised his head and sighed. His voice lingered in the air, as if he was deeply sad. Ever since Zheng Mingxing came back, the situation had taken a turn for the worse. Jiang Likun was so upset that she almost vomited blood. However, she knew that there was nothing she could do. The two most powerful people in the Zheng family had changed their minds. If she kept talking, she would be seen as ignorant. After talking for a few minutes, Jiang Likun finally couldn't sit still anymore. She dragged Li Zichao away and left with his tail between his legs. As soon as they left the yard, Li Zichao said unhappily, Mom, are we just going to let it go? What else do you want? Jiang Likun slapped him on the back of his head and said angrily, Just give up. If you don't want to rely on the Zheng family, then so be it. What's the big deal? After pausing for a moment, Jiang Likun said, Don't worry, Your father has the support of the old leader. We're not afraid of him. These 2 days are free of charge. You don't have to pay for your subscriptions. Then starting from next Monday, it will continue for a week. Let me give you a preview. It will be 10 chapters on Monday and Tuesday, 6 chapters on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and 4 chapters on Saturday and Sunday. After that, it will return to normal. Xiaohan's outbursts won't be much, because Xiaohan's work in real life is really busy. I believe many readers know this. In order to let everyone enjoy this outburst, Xiaohan has also prepared for a long time. During this period, he has been seriously lacking sleep. Xiaohan is so sincere. Everyone please vote for him. Love you all greater than over equal to. Chapter 334. The Zheng family's house was still brightly lit. Zheng Yujie stood up excitedly and threw herself at Zheng Mingsheng. She couldn't help but burst into tears. Dad, thank you. She was really touched, not only because Zheng Mingsheng had solved her most worrisome problem of the engagement, but also because of what Zheng Mingsheng had just said. What was Zheng Yujie most worried about? It was her family forcing her to leave Poplar Fruit, not giving her a choice. Regardless of whether Zheng Mingsheng meant what he said about the freedom of marriage, she at least saw a glimmer of hope from her previous complete despair. As long as there was hope, she could still fight for the future. Zheng Mingsheng kindly patted Zheng Yujie's back and said, "Okay, don't cry. How old are you now? Go and rest." After Zheng Yujie left, Zheng Taiming was still sitting there. When Zheng Mingsheng turned his eyes to him, he hurriedly jumped up. However, after taking only 2 steps, he turned his head and whispered to Zheng Mingsheng, "Dad, what you said about the freedom of marriage, is that true? Don't even think about it." Zheng Mingsheng suddenly put on the face of a strict father. He stared at him and said, "You're not allowed to date in college. Study hard. After you graduate, I'll arrange for you to go to the grassroots for 2 years." With his tail between his legs, Zheng Taiming ran away with a pale face. Only Zheng Mingsheng, Deng Baoyan, and Zheng Jianhua were left in the living room. Zheng Jianhua wasn't in a hurry at all. He slowly picked up a teacup from the table next to him, took a sip, then put it down and quietly waited for Zheng Mingsheng to explain to him. "Dad, I'm sorry." Zheng Mingsheng waved his hand and asked the caregivers to leave. He said to Zheng Jianhua apologetically, "Please forgive me for making the decision without permission. You're not young anymore. I know you make decisions for a reason," said Zheng Jianhua slowly. "Tell me what happened." "It's like this. The winds have changed recently, and we are at the critical juncture of the election. No matter what decision we make, we must be very careful. In addition, I've received some rumors about the head of the Li family." Zheng Mingsheng sighed and said, "How serious is it? Can you give me a hand?" Zheng Jianhua asked slowly. He still cared about the friendship between him and Li family's old master. "It's very serious." Zheng Mingsheng shook his head and said, "It involves the struggle of the highest level. However, the Li family was too deeply involved. If anything went wrong, they would be doomed eternally. It's best that our family doesn't have anything to do with the Li family." Zheng Jianhua pondered for quite a while, then slowly nodded. "Actually, Baoyan told me about this the night before yesterday. It wasn't convenient to talk to you over the phone, so she had something to do yesterday, so she came back today to discuss it with you." Fortunately, she made it in time. Zheng Mingsheng's fingers tapped rhythmically on the sofa's armrest. Then Deng Baoyan sensibly left, leaving Zheng Mingsheng and Zheng Jianhua to talk for a long time. At last, Zheng Jianhua sighed and said, "We'll do as you said. If we offend the Li family, then so be it. As outsiders, we can't do anything about it. As for Brother Li, I'll ask him for punishment after I go down." After saying that, Zheng Jianhua supported himself on the armchair and stood up shakily. His back was straight before, but now it was much hunched. Zheng Mingsheng hurriedly walked up to his father and helped him back to his room to rest. Zheng Mingsheng covered his father with a quilt. When he was about to leave, his wrist was suddenly grabbed. Zheng Jianhua gently patted Zheng Mingsheng's hand with his bony hand and said gently, "Mingsheng, I'm getting more and more muddle-headed as I get older. There are many things that you can't understand." "Dad, don't talk nonsense. You're still energetic, Zheng Mingxing retorted. Don't worry. I'm not saying that I don't have much time left. This old man doesn't want to go down and apologize to Brother Li so early. Zheng Jianhua made a rare joke. He continued. What I mean is, from now on, you'll be in charge of the Zheng family's affairs. Take good care of this helm. The Zheng family's burden will fall on your shoulders. Zheng Mingxing didn't answer directly. He firmly patted his father's hands to reassure him, then turned and left. In the dead of night, Zheng Mingxing turned off the light in the study, took off his pajamas, and got into bed. Say it. Deng Baoyan hugged him from behind and whispered in his ear. Say what? Zheng Mingxing asked with a smile. Don't tell me that what you said to Jiang Likun was true? Deng Baoyan's left hand stopped at Zheng Mingxing's waist. She gently rubbed his soft flesh and asked, Freedom of marriage, why do I feel that it's false? You believe the excuse I said to the Li family? Zheng Mingxing turned over and looked at his wife's eyes in the dark. Who believes it? Deng Baoyan muttered. Isn't it because you said it with conviction as if it's true? Hey, let me ask you. Deng Baoyan pointed at Zheng Mingxing's chest and asked. That matter with Xiao Jia, how are you going to deal with it? How do you think I should deal with it? Zheng Mingxing asked back. It's hard to say. I talked to her today. Xiao Jia seems to be dead set on it. Deng Baoyan said worriedly. That's because she's too young. In 2 years there won't be such a thing. Zheng Mingxing said indifferently. That's because you don't understand. Deng Baoyan pushed Zheng Mingxing and said discontentedly. Do you think Xiao Jia is still the impulsive tomboy from back then? She's 25 this year. She's not young anymore. If she waits for another 2 years, it'll delay things. Besides, you haven't seen the photo yet, Deng Baoyan said. I don't need to see it. I can guess that the Li family is so anxious. They must be scheming something. If you believe it, then you'll fall into their trap. Zheng Mingxing said firmly. If he's really a playboy, will Xiao Jia like him? That's the problem, Deng Baoyan said. I saw the photo. That person is quite handsome. According to Xiao Pang, he's quite a talented person. It's just that he has a child and has an ordinary family background. Do you want your daughter to fall into his trap? Secretary Zheng of Freedom of Marriage. Hey, I didn't say that I'd just let it go. Zheng Mingxing laughed. You know Xiao Jia's character. The more you don't let her do it, the stronger her rebellious heart will be, and the more she'll want to do it. You're making a fuss about breaking up with her, but you're pushing her out instead. Zheng Mingxing reached out his hand and hugged his wife's waist. He laughed and said, You can't go wrong listening to me. If you want someone to check it out and find a chance to reason with poplar fruit, won't the matter be settled? What are you doing? You're touching me. Deng Baoyan slapped Zheng Mingxing's hand. We're an old married couple. Aren't you ashamed? What's there to be ashamed of? I haven't been back for a long time. The night was getting darker and closer, leaving only the crescent moon quietly shining in the sky. Outbreak warning. Starting from next Monday, it will last for a week. It will be 10 chapters on Monday and Tuesday, 6 chapters on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, and 4 chapters on Saturday and Sunday. After that, it will return to normal. Xiao Han's outbreak won't be much because Xiao Han's work in real life is really busy. I believe many readers know this. In order to let everyone enjoy this outbreak, Xiao Han has prepared for a long time. During this period of time, she has been seriously lacking sleep. Xiao Han is so sincere. Everyone, please vote for her. Love you all greater than over equal to? Chapter 335. Time and camera returned to Poplar Fruit's house at nightfall. It was unknown how much Song Jiwen said, but Duan Xueqing finally agreed. When they arrived at Poplar Fruit's house, the moment they opened the door, the aroma of the beer duck filled the air. It smelled of both the mellow aroma of wine and the rich aroma of duck meat. It immediately made one's stomach rumble, and they couldn't help but follow the smell. Just in time, just in time. It's just finished cooking. You can start eating now that you're here. Song Jiwen shouted as he slurped his saliva. Kiki, who was beside him, saw his appearance and giggled. She imitated Song Jiwen and took a deep breath. Poplar Fruit poured the beer duck into a plate, and placed it in the middle of the table. The brown beer duck had just been dipped into the sauce, and the thick sauce was decorated with green and white spring onions. It looked very appetizing. Poplar Fruit raised his head and looked at Duan Xueqing through the steam. The girl, who was as quiet and elegant as a snow lotus in the deep mountains, seemed to have lost a lot of weight. However, her expression was still the same as before. There was no joy or anger, and it was as calm as before. Poplar Fruit sighed softly in his heart. Even though Duan Xueqing was still the same as before, Poplar Fruit could clearly feel that there was an additional layer of barrier between the two of them. Song Jiwen was in a hurry to eat, so he quickly helped Poplar Fruit bring out the other soup and rice. He sat there and rubbed 2 clean chopsticks with an impatient look on his face. Poplar Fruit gave a simple greeting, and everyone took a seat at the table to eat. Because he had to feed Kiki first, Poplar Fruit turned his head and glared at Song Jiwen, who had quickly put a piece of duck meat into his mouth, saying, "Don't be in a hurry to eat. Push the plate over a little, or Xueqing will only eat the dish in front of her." After that, Poplar Fruit said to Duan Xueqing, "Xueqing, try my beer duck. Don't worry, the ducks are reared by the villagers. They are definitely not greasy." Duan Xueqing didn't answer. She just silently picked up her chopsticks and put a piece of duck meat into her bowl. She became more and more depressed. She just sat at the side, quietly and slowly eating her meal, almost without making any sound. If he hadn't seen such a big person there with his own eyes, he might have thought that she hadn't come. Kiki asked her father to feed her. The duck meat was very small and fragrant. As she chewed, she timidly turned her head to look at Duan Xueqing. Duan Xueqing's almost emotionless eyes made people a little nervous. Kiki was afraid, but she also wanted to look. She was conflicted as she twisted around. After eating, Poplar Fruit put down his bowl and chopsticks. He kicked Song Jiwen, who had already finished eating and was playing games on his phone, and said, "Today you wash the dishes." Then he walked over to Duan Xueqing, lowered his head, and said softly to her, "Come to the balcony for a moment. I have something to say to you." Duan Xueqing raised her head and looked deeply at Poplar Fruit. She straightened her skirt with both hands, stood up, and followed Poplar Fruit to the balcony. Poplar Fruit's balcony was very quiet at night. The street lamps downstairs emitted a faint yellow light, and there were no pedestrians. Behind the balcony was a piece of green land. When the breeze blew, there would be the sound of branches and leaves swaying. "Are we going to continue this Cold War?" Poplar Fruit sighed softly and asked. Duan Xueqing stood quietly to the side. Like Poplar Fruit, her back was against the fence. "Your hair is pressed down." Poplar Fruit pointed. Duan Xueqing looked back. She still cared a lot about her waist-length hair. One of her hands nimbly reached behind her back and scooped up her waterfall-like hair. She flipped over the fence and put it down. "Do you remember when I was in my 3rd year, and you were in your 2nd year?" Poplar Fruit recalled and said, "My girlfriend at the time came over. I asked you to come out for supper." Duan Xueqing was silent. Her memory wasn't bad. Otherwise, she wouldn't have gotten 1st place in the entire grade. The past flashed before her eyes like a movie. At that time, when Lu Yunran saw the fairy-like Duan Xueqing, she felt inferior and jealous. She secretly used some words to squeeze Poplar Fruit and Duan Xueqing. Poplar Fruit laughed and said, "Don't worry. In my heart, Xueqing will always be like a little sister." And that time, Poplar Fruit was in his 2nd year and Duan Xueqing was in her 1st year. A boy from the basketball team from another school took a fancy to Duan Xueqing and chased after her. Even when Duan Xueqing was on her way to the library to read, he pulled his bicycle and blocked the way. Poplar Fruit and Song Jiwen just came back from the internet cafe outside the school. Seeing this situation, Poplar Fruit was furious. He threw his jacket aside and rushed up to the muscular guy from the basketball team without saying a word. At that time, Poplar Fruit's skills were trash. The result was obvious. Even though Song Jiwen caught up, and the two of them forced the muscular guy to retreat, Poplar Fruit still paid the price of being beaten up until his nose bled. Duan Xueqing supported Poplar Fruit and walked towards the school hospital. Poplar Fruit even opened his big mouth and laughed. "Hey, this is nothing. You are my little sister. This kind of brat doesn't have eyes." If one comes, I'll beat one. If two come, I'll beat them both. As Poplar Fruit slowly narrated, Duan Xueqing quietly listened. Her eyes that seemed to be covered by a thin layer of ice had a slight fluctuation. Think about it. I've known you for almost 5 years. We've been good friends for almost 5 years. Or I can shamelessly say that we've been siblings for almost 5 years. For so many years, we've always been good. Why did it suddenly change? Poplar Fruit asked softly. Duan Xueqing's breathing was a bit heavy. She lowered her head and didn't say anything. I think our relationship before was pretty good. I treated you as a good friend, a very, very good friend. I even treated you like a little sister to protect. Poplar Fruit held his head with both hands, looked up at the sky, and sighed deeply. I don't want to change. I also don't want us to become like this because of this. That's right. Now they don't even answer the phone. They don't even want to talk when they meet. What's the difference between them and strangers? Why can't they go back to those years that were like flowers? Duan Xueqing gently shook her head. This was the first response she made today. Can't we be good friends like before? Poplar Fruit seriously looked at Duan Xueqing's beautiful side profile and asked again. Duan Xueqing hesitated for a moment. Her red lips gently opened as she said, I don't know. Her heart had actually started to waver because of Poplar Fruit's words. However, she was terrified of the unknown future. In the past year, Duan Xueqing had been in love with Poplar Fruit ever since she took her graduation photos at school. When Poplar Fruit clearly told her that it was impossible between them, Duan Xueqing wanted to escape. Because she only wanted the two of them to be happy together. She didn't know what her world would be like without Poplar Fruit. Xiao Han won't write a tragedy that makes everyone unhappy. Xiao Han promised. Outbreak notice. Starting from next Monday, it will last for a week. Monday and Tuesday will be 10 chapters. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday will be 6 chapters. Saturday and Sunday will be 4 chapters. Xiao Han won't have a lot of outbursts because Xiao Han is really busy in real life. I believe many readers know this. In order to make everyone happy with this outburst, Xiao Han has prepared for a long time. During this period of time, he has been seriously lacking sleep. Xiao Han is so sincere. Everyone please vote for him. Love you all greater than over equal to? Chapter 336. Where's Papa? After playing with gold for a while, Kiki finally found that her father was missing. She turned her head and looked at Song Jiwen, who was sitting on the sofa playing with his mobile phone. Here. Song Jiwen pointed to the balcony without raising his head. Hey Papa. Kiki saw Poplar Fruit standing on the balcony through the glass window in the dark. She happily crawled over there. Kiki wants to find Papa. Hey no. Song Jiwen quickly took Kiki into his arms, put up his index finger and shushed her saying, Don't disturb your father. Oh. Kiki nodded as if she understood. She turned her head and suddenly became interested in the big shiny buttons on Song Jiwen's clothes. She lowered her head and began to button them. Don't move. Song Jiwen helplessly said, Forget it, you can play with the phone. Don't bother your Uncle Mosquito anymore. He carried Kiki back to the carpet and handed his mobile phone to Kiki. At this time, Kiki stopped. What are you talking about? So long? Song Jiwen looked out of the window and muttered. He didn't know that while he was turning his head, Kiki had already stuffed his mobile phone into Gold's mouth. Although it wouldn't break, after a while, when he found out and took it back, the phone would definitely be sticky. Back on the balcony, Poplar Fruit was still nagging Duan Xueqing. You don't have to be angry with me, do you? Poplar Fruit felt that Duan Xueqing's mood had loosened. He quickly struck while the iron was hot and said, You just started working, and your salary is not high. It's a waste to rent the house here and not live in it. Duan Xueqing didn't care about the rent. She was a real rich second generation. We can ignore everything, but we can't go against money. Poplar Fruit smiled and said, Besides, you know that the old house is a bit dirty and messy. The environment is definitely not as good as ours. Seeing you torment yourself because of my mistake, I feel sorry. Duan Xueqing glanced at Poplar Fruit. All right. Don't be angry. Poplar Fruit coaxed Duan Xueqing like he was coaxing an ignorant little sister. He said, "Move back here. If anything happens, we can take care of each other." Feeling Poplar Fruit's brotherly care, the coldness on Duan Xueqing's face gradually faded. She was still struggling, but the scenes of the past flashed through her mind, giving her no reason to persist. Ring, ring, ring. At this time, Duan Xueqing's cell phone suddenly rang. Her cell phone's ringtone wasn't that fancy. It was just a classical ringtone. Suddenly, the crisp sound cut through the silence of the night sky. Duan Xueqing picked up the cell phone and glanced at it. A trace of disgust flashed through her eyes. This was something that Poplar Fruit didn't notice. Her finger swiped across the screen and pressed the end of the call. However, the caller still didn't give up. The dissatisfaction in Duan Xueqing's eyes intensified. She crossed it out again. This time, she didn't wait for the caller to call again. She directly turned off the phone. Poplar Fruit saw the clue. He frowned and asked, "What's wrong? What's the trouble?" Duan Xueqing hesitated for a moment, shook her head, and smiled indifferently. "No, it's just a harassment call." Poplar Fruit still felt that something was wrong, but Duan Xueqing didn't say anything, so he didn't ask. After all, the Cold War between the two of them hadn't been completely resolved. Duan Xueqing raised her head, looked at Poplar Fruit, and said softly, "Let's go back. The problem hasn't been solved yet." Poplar Fruit scratched his head, opened the glass door of the balcony, and let Duan Xueqing go in first. Back in the living room, Duan Xueqing tidied up and prepared to go back. She suddenly stood on the edge of the sofa, her hands gently supporting the back of the sofa. Looking at Poplar Fruit and Song Jiwen, who stood up to send her off, she smiled slightly. The smile of the ice beauty was like the blooming of an epiphyllum. For a moment, the bright lights in the room lost their brilliance in front of her. Duan Xueqing opened her cherry lips and said to them indifferently, "Tomorrow I'll move back. Are you free?" Poplar Fruit was stunned for a moment. He thought that all the words he had just said were in vain, but Duan Xueqing suddenly took a turn. Song Jiwen reacted first. He smiled and said, "Decisive, no problem. Let me tell you, Poplar Fruit's car was specially built for moving. After seeing the trunk of his car, everyone said that he didn't open a moving company. It's really a waste." "Go to hell, you're the one who opened a moving company." Poplar Fruit pushed Song Jiwen and laughed. He readily agreed to Duan Xueqing, and decided to help her move the things from the old house tomorrow. After driving Duan Xueqing home and dealing with the gossipy Song Jiwen, Poplar Fruit lay on the sofa and felt a little tired. However, although it took a lot of effort to persuade Duan Xueqing, Poplar Fruit was still very satisfied with the final result. He didn't know if Duan Xueqing really understood what he meant, but ending the Cold War was the first step to success. Poplar Fruit bathed Kiki and coaxed her to bed early. Finally, he thought of Zheng Yujie. The girl's resolute expression when she boarded the plane still appeared in Poplar Fruit's mind. Poplar Fruit didn't know what kind of trouble Zheng Yujie had encountered, but Zheng Yujie's expression gave him a feeling that she would never return. This made Poplar Fruit very worried. Except for the phone call when Zheng Yujie returned to Beijing yesterday, the two of them hadn't contacted each other for the whole day. Of course, it was normal that they didn't contact each other. They weren't a couple, so they couldn't call each other every day. When they were busy, Zheng Yujie disappearing for more than a week was very common. However, the situation this time was different. Zheng Yujie was so serious when she went back. Poplar Fruit was worried that Zheng Yujie would have an accident. He decided to take the initiative to call Zheng Yujie and ask her. As friends, it was necessary to care about each other. The phone was quickly connected. Zheng Yujie's happy voice came from the phone. As usual, she didn't sound depressed. She even sounded more excited than before. This made Poplar Fruit puzzled. He asked, "Yujie, is there anything wrong on your side?" "Nothing." Zheng Yujie was still immersed in the relaxation and joy of the cancellation of the engagement. She answered readily, "That's good. I saw that you weren't very happy when you went back. I was afraid that something might have happened to you." Poplar Fruit explained. "There was something when I went back, but it's all settled now." Zheng Yujie laughed. "Really? Poplar Fruit asked in disbelief. Of course, Zheng Yujie said proudly. Don't you know who I am? Everyone loves you. Flowers bloom when they see you. Coffins open when they see you. The legendary jade-faced young gentleman? Poplar Fruit couldn't help but tease her. Go to hell. Zheng Yujie scolded with a smile. Outbreak warning. The outbreak will start next Monday and last for a week. The outbreak will be 10 chapters on Monday and Tuesday, 6 chapters on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, and 4 chapters on Saturday and Sunday. Xiaohan's outbreak won't be much, because Xiaohan's work in real life is really busy. I believe many readers know this. In order to make everyone happy, Xiaohan has prepared for a long time. During this period of time, he has been seriously lacking sleep. Xiaohan is so sincere. Everyone please vote for him. Love you all greater than over equal to? Chapter 337. Young Luoqi. A loud shout echoed in the corridor. Poplar Fruit, who was wearing an apron and holding a cooking spatula, jumped out of the open door of his house and ran to the door of Song Jiwen's house. The door wasn't closed, so Poplar Fruit pushed it open. He stepped over the small bench that was blocking the door and rushed in. Kiki was holding Goldie, one person and one dog lying comfortably on the cushion-shaped chair in Song Jiwen's living room. Hearing the movement, Goldie and Kiki turned their heads and looked over. Ah! Kiki screamed and covered her eyes. A classic example of deceiving herself. On the other hand, the cowardly Goldie quivered and hid behind Chi-Chi's back in a flash. Young Luoqi. Poplar Fruit pointed at the big TV in Song Jiwen's house and said, You sneaked over to watch TV again. How many times have I told you? Without my permission, you're not allowed to watch. Translator. Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio time flew by quickly as she translated, studied, and attended classes day after day. It was already early June. Poplar Fruit didn't celebrate Children's Day for Kiki. When they went to the cinema last year, Poplar Fruit thought it through. His daughter was still a baby. How could she celebrate Children's Day? Not to mention the cinema, she could only watch others play in the amusement park. Therefore, Poplar Fruit took her to watch TV in Song Jiwen's house and watch some cartoons suitable for children, such as Pleasant Goat and Big Bad Wolf. This was not easy to deal with. Kiki was completely fascinated by the machine with many little people jumping around. Here, I have to talk about Kiki's changes in the past month. First of all, her head was growing like a bamboo shoot after the rain. The small pants that fit her a month ago could only cover her knees now. Every day when Poplar Fruit bathed her, he would sigh and say, Kiki, you're lucky that you were born into a family with a father who knows how to make money. Otherwise, who would be able to support the speed at which you buy clothes? It was indeed fast. She couldn't wear her new clothes in less than 2 weeks. On the other hand, Poplar Fruit only bought branded children's clothes, which cost 500 to 600 yuan for a pair of pants. Every time he grew taller, he would have to spend the price of an Apple phone. This made Poplar Fruit speechless. He gave all the clothes that he could no longer wear to Feng Beibei to be washed and donated. Of course, he did not donate them to the Red Cross. Secondly, Kiki's speech was much smoother now. She was no longer as stuttering as before. Moreover, after following her father and listening to several English lessons that Poplar Fruit taught to Feng Beibei, she could actually repeat some English words. Her pronunciation was as smooth as her father's. Although she did not understand what it meant, this was definitely inherited from Poplar Fruit's super language talent. This made Feng Beibei feel ashamed. Needless to say, after Kiki's body grew taller, the bones in her small arms and legs were not as weak as before. When she walked, she would jump and jump. If Poplar Fruit was not paying attention, she might run off somewhere. What made Poplar Fruit amazed was his daughter's IQ. 2 days ago, Poplar Fruit took her to watch TV for the first time. He only pressed the remote control a few times and she remembered it. Then she picked up the remote control and pressed it randomly. At that time, Poplar Fruit proudly said to Song Jiwen, "See, this is my daughter. She's so smart." He even taught his daughter how to press the TV on and off, and the buttons on the remote control to choose the channel. Now Kiki had learned how to turn on the TV by herself. All she wanted to do was to sneak into Song Jiwen's house. Poplar fruit did not let Kiki watch too much TV. After all, this kind of constantly flashing machine could easily cause damage to Kiki's eyes that had not matured yet. However, even if poplar fruit did not bring Kiki there, she could think of a way herself. Poplar fruit was reading in the living room once. He inadvertently raised his head and saw Kiki and Goldie acting sneakily. Then, without saying anything, he took a picture of Kiki's crime process with his mobile phone. During this process, Goldie was Kiki's biggest accomplice. First, it could quickly find the place where poplar fruit hid Song Ji-won's spare key through smell. Then it would take it out and give it to Kiki. Then, because it was too short to reach the door handle, Kiki would move a small stool to the door. Kiki was very strong, but she could not move the small stool by herself. At this time, the accomplice came up again. Goldie eagerly followed beside Chi-Chi, and used his head to help Chi-Chi push the small stool. It was not over yet. It even lay down and let Kiki step on its back to climb up the small stool to open the door. Youngwa stealthily hid at the side and was dumbstruck. If he did not see it with his own eyes, he would not believe it even if someone told him about it. Kiki and Goldie used the same method to go to Song Ji-won's house. Then they used the key to open the door of Song Ji-won's house. This was like a tiger entering a flock of sheep. Kiki quickly and excitedly ran to the front of the TV and turned on the TV to watch. Did you know that Kiki's intelligence was not limited to this? In the beginning, when Kiki committed a crime, she would accidentally lock herself in Song Ji-won's house. Then poplar fruit would have to spend a lot of effort to open the door, or she would have to find a small stool to open the door from the inside. Now, when poplar fruit came in, he was surprised to find that the two thieves had leveled up. Kiki had learned to use a small stool to block the door, leaving a gap for her to sneak back in. For this reason, poplar fruit was angry and amused. He began to think that Kiki was too smart was not a good thing. Anyway, it was difficult for him to control this naughty little girl now. Papa. Kiki did not wait for poplar fruit to scold her. She ran over, hugged poplar fruit's thigh, and shouted in a sweet voice, "Papa, Kiki is hungry." She also shook poplar fruit's trousers and acted coquettishly. Poplar fruit lowered his head, just in time to see his baby daughter's big sparkling eyes and long eyelashes. She was like a cute girl walking out of an anime, which was irresistible. Even poplar fruit, who saw it countless times every day, could not help but soften his heart. He squatted down and rubbed Kiki's hair. Taking advantage of the victory, Kiki pouted her mouth and said with her eyes curved into two crescent moons, "Kiss, kiss. I really can't stand you." Poplar fruit pressed his forehead against Kiki and kissed her. He smiled and picked her up with his empty hand. "You've seen it today. You're not allowed to see it anymore. Let's go home and eat." At this time, Goldie saw that the situation was good. It happily wagged its tail and came out from behind the cushion chair. Poplar fruit kicked Goldie with some dissatisfaction, but his hair was immediately pulled by Kiki. Okay, I won't hit it." Poplar fruit reluctantly raised the shovel and swore. Tomorrow's first update will be at 0:15 a.m. Outbreak notice. The outbreak will start from next Monday and last for a week. The outbreak will start at 10 a.m. on Monday and Tuesday, 6 a.m. on Wednesday, 4 a.m. on Thursday and Friday, and 4 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday. After that, the normal update will resume. Xiaohan's outbreak will not be much because Xiaohan's work in real life is really busy. I believe many readers know this. In order to let everyone enjoy this outbreak, Xiaohan has prepared for a long time. During this period of time, he has been seriously lacking sleep. Xiaohan is so sincere. Everyone please vote for him. Love you all greater than over equal to? Chapter 338. The first update. The next update is at 6 o'clock. Good night, everyone. Damn. Just as Poplar Fruit was about to turn off the TV and leave with his daughter, Song Ji-won came out of the bedroom rubbing his eyes. He had just put on his shirt, and some of the creases were not even straightened out. "Can't you let me sleep?" Song Ji-won yawned on the sofa and said with half-closed eyes. "Still sleeping?" Poplar Fruit kicked him and said angrily, "Look, what time is it now?" It was already past 5 o'clock. Poplar Fruit walked over, opened the curtains, and looked at the sky outside. The sun was setting in the west, and the whole city was about to enter the world of night. You have to understand, people who work all night are sleepy. Song Jiwen covered his eyes with one hand and raised the other hand to mutter, "Do you still want to eat? You're so decadent every day." Poplar Fruit shook his head and said to Kiki, "Kiki, we can't learn from Uncle Mosquito." "Yes," Chi-Chi replied in a clear voice. "Daddy and I woke up very, very early." Song Jiwen crawled a few times and finally got up from the sofa. He stretched and said, "Okay, Uncle Mosquito also needs to get up early. Let's go eat." Poplar Fruit carried his daughter to the door and said without looking back, "Wash your face first, I haven't finished cooking yet." Song Jiwen had become more and more decadent since Xiao Yao left. Poplar Fruit saw it and remembered it in his heart, but he could not do anything about it. Usually at work, this guy was like a different person. He was sunny, positive, and ambitious, and was deeply loved by the leaders and other colleagues in the unit. However, when it came to weekends or holidays, if he had no other activities, he would completely become an otaku. He played the game all night, and only dove into his bed at the first glimmer of dawn the next day to fall asleep. Once again, he slept until the sky turned dark. Just like that, an entire day was wasted. "I say, Poplar Fruit, why are your dishes getting lighter and lighter?" Xueqing didn't come over to eat today. Song Jiwen used his chopsticks to pick up the stir-fried pork with lettuce, and asked unhappily. Poplar Fruit was feeding his daughter. Kiki preferred to eat fish. She would not eat pork if it was not cooked into porridge. Poplar Fruit wanted to change her habit of being picky, so he put a lot of vegetables in her bowl. He didn't even raise his head as he asked, "How is it light? Aren't 2 plates of meat dishes enough?" "What I mean is, why don't you have some red braised pork, yuxiang shredded pork, kung pao chicken and so on?" Song Jiwen sighed. He picked up a piece of meat and stuffed it into his mouth, but it was tasteless. Kiki wants to eat fish. Hearing Song Jiwen mention fish, Kiki's eyes lit up. She quickly nodded in agreement. "Don't be picky. Eat whatever Daddy cooks." Poplar Fruit pointed at Kiki and said, "Otherwise, I won't bring you to play with Bebe." With this threat, Kiki immediately obeyed and ate her dinner obediently. "You two." Poplar Fruit pointed at Song Jiwen and said, "Freeloading all day and still being picky. Hurry up and eat." Song Jiwen looked at Kiki helplessly. Kiki also acted like an adult and sighed. After feeding Kiki, Poplar Fruit also started eating. As he ate, he said, "I say, do you have to sleep on the weekend? Don't you have anything else to do? Why do you talk about this every day?" Song Jiwen put down the bowl, leaned against the table and complained, "You're as annoying as my mom." "Isn't it because your mom asked me to talk about you?" Poplar Fruit rolled his eyes at him, picked up a piece of fried green lettuce, and threw it into his mouth. Then he said, "I think it's better for you to be like you used to be." Poplar Fruit held back the second half of his words. He put down the chopsticks and covered Kiki's ears before continuing. "You used to pick up girls like you used to." Kiki shook her head discontentedly, raised her head, and said with a pout, "Papa, I want to play with gold." Go. Since they had finished eating, Poplar Fruit took Kiki to the ground and let her play by herself. "You know, I can't get over this in my heart." Song Jiwen sighed and said, "Every time I want to go to the bar, Xiao Yao's face will appear in my mind. She will look at me from the side, just like when she left, with tears in her eyes. I know. She doesn't want me to let other girls down." Song Jiwen paused and said, "Then you'll be like this for the rest of your life? You won't fall in love or get married?" Poplar Fruit put down the chopsticks and asked, "That's not it. If I fall in love with the purpose of getting married, I don't think I will have any psychological burden." That's also a good explanation for Xiao Yao, Song Jiwen thought and said. "Then why do you play on the phone every day? To fall in love with the purpose of getting married?" Poplar Fruit said with a smile. "Isn't it because I haven't met the right one?" Song Jiwen helplessly said. "The girls that I can see around me are either girls that I don't like or girls that I like, but they are all the same as the girls that I have slept with before. I don't think they are the type of girls that I want to marry." Ahaha! Kiki suddenly screamed and laughed. Her voice was too penetrating. Poplar Fruit and the others couldn't help but look over. It turned out that Kiki was playing with Goldie. At this time, Goldie's growth speed was much faster than Kiki's, and his strength was also greater than the current Kiki. Therefore, Goldie suddenly arched his body, and Kiki was thrown to the ground by Goldie. Kiki screamed because Goldie kept drilling into her arms. As a result, Goldie kept pushing Kiki back, and Kiki couldn't turn over and stand up. Poplar Fruit laughed and shook his head, and no longer paid attention to these two little guys. Then what type are you looking for? Poplar Fruit turned his head and continued to ask. Tell me if I meet her, I'll introduce her to you. Is she the pure and cute type? Or the flirtatious type? Poplar Fruit lowered his voice for the last type. Go away, don't think of me as such a bad person. Song Jiwen said with a smile. I want to find a very powerful woman who can subdue me, but will also love me and be considerate of me. Oh, a cute and lovable woman plus overbearing and unreasonable. You are simply a schizophrenic. Poplar Fruit said speechlessly. That's too unrealistic, change it. Say, a woman who will ride a colorful cloud to marry you is more reliable than this. No change. Song Jiwen raised his head and resolutely said. I believe that I will definitely meet such a woman. When fate comes, love will eventually come. You are hopeless, forget it, continue to be dispirited. Poplar Fruit shook his head. When you find your barbaric and delicate girlfriend, you will probably become ape dung. Song Jiwen snorted, showing a kind of aloofness that said, those who walk different paths should not work together. It won't be Zheng Yujie, don't worry. There will be 10 chapters today. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Everyone use your votes to smash the poor. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 339. Second update. Kiki, is Daddy handsome today? Poplar Fruit asked with a smile as he came out of the bathroom and rolled up the sleeves of his white shirt. Handsome. Kiki answered without hesitation. You haven't seen it yet. Poplar Fruit was annoyed and amused at the same time. He walked around and stood in front of Kiki asking, how is it? Am I handsome? So handsome. Chi-Chi looked him up and down before pursing her lips into a smile. Poplar Fruit picked her up and kissed her affectionately. He smiled and said, you are Daddy's good daughter. Poplar Fruit was dressed very handsomely today. He wore black trousers and a pair of frosted leather casual shoes. He wore a white slim-fit shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked very energetic and hardworking. Why is Poplar Fruit dressed so handsomely today? Is he going on a blind date? Is he going to confess? That's not it. Today was the first time Poplar Fruit was a substitute teacher. It was also the first time in his life that he was a teacher. Teaching Fang Beibei was not really a teacher. The day before yesterday, Professor Wang Zhongxin suddenly informed him that she wanted Poplar Fruit to help teach French this week, because she had an academic conference to attend. Normally, this substitute teacher should be another French teacher in the school. As early as a month ago, when the conference notice was sent out, Professor Wang Zhongxin told the school that she wanted to find someone to substitute for the class. In the end, Dean Chen Zongdai decided to let Poplar Fruit give it a try. After all, Poplar Fruit had only been with Professor Wang Zhongxin for less than a semester. According to the original plan, Poplar Fruit would have to wait until the end of the year to have the opportunity to teach on the podium. It was unknown whether it was Poplar Fruit's recent rapid progress in linguistics that moved Chen Zongdai, or whether it was Chen Zongdai himself who discovered Poplar Fruit's talent in teaching, but he decided to let Poplar Fruit go on the podium in advance. Professor Wang Zhongxin did not have any objections. First of all, this class did not have any practical teaching tasks. It was almost the end of the semester. According to the original plan, there were 2 consecutive French classes. The first class was to explain the test papers from the previous class, and the second class was purely a question and answer class. If there were any questions, just ask. This kind of substitute teaching was not very difficult. Secondly, she also admired Poplar Fruit's knowledge. This had already been reflected in the past teaching. As an assistant, Poplar Fruit conscientiously prepared all the materials for her. Moreover, when the two of them discussed after class, Poplar fruit also showed that his French proficiency was not much worse than hers. Since the dean wanted to give poplar fruit a try, then she would give him a chance. When they arrived at the school, Poplar Fruit found Fong Beibei. Wow! Fong Beibei's beautiful eyes wandered. She could not help but exclaim, "You're dressed very stylishly today." Indeed, not only did the black trousers set off the huge lethality of his long legs, but the slim-fit clothes also revealed Poplar Fruit's well-proportioned body. After getting out of the car and walking on campus, Poplar Fruit had already attracted a lot of attention. If it were not for the fact that he was carrying a child, perhaps there would be even more. Is that so? For some reason, when he heard Fong Beibei's rare praise, Poplar Fruit felt full of joy. He happily asked, "Do you like it?" Fong Beibei hugged Kiki, rolled her eyes and said, "Hee hee, it's just a class. You must be trying to seduce the girl to see the goldfish with you dressed like this." "I just wanted to take you to see the goldfish, but you didn't want to go." Poplar Fruit laughed. He and Fong Beibei were now very familiar with each other. Occasionally, it would not be a problem to make jokes. "I knew you were a weird uncle." Fong Beibei's delicate cheeks flushed. She hugged Kiki and gently kicked Poplar Fruit's calf. The atmosphere between the two seemed to be a little ambiguous. "What's a goldfish?" Kiki hugged Fong Beibei's neck and asked curiously. "Kiki wants to see it too, okay?" "Hee hee, Kiki, you just need to remember that goldfish are not good things. No matter who says it, let's not go see it, okay?" Fong Beibei held Kiki's little head and whispered to her, "Let's pinky promise, okay?" Although the voice was low, Poplar Fruit could hear it clearly. This made him a little dumbfounded. "Okay." Kiki nodded seriously and stretched out her little finger to hook Fong Beibei. She said together in a childish voice, Pinky promise, 100 years no change." "Okay, I have to go to class." Poplar Fruit took out his phone and looked at the time. He said apologetically, "Please take care of Kiki." "Go go." Fong Beibei waved her hand and said. Before Poplar Fruit walked 2 meters, Fong Beibei suddenly shouted from behind, "Uncle, you can do it! You can do it!" Kiki also shouted, not to be outdone. Poplar Fruit turned around with a smile and waved at them. He then turned around and walked in the direction of the classroom. Poplar Fruit was considered light. He did not have a computer or other teaching materials. He only had a stack of papers rolled up into a bundle. Fong Beibei turned around and walked 2 steps in the direction of the dormitory. Then she rolled her eyes and walked back with Kiki in her arms. She leaned against the corner and sneakily glanced at Poplar Fruit. Then she turned her head and looked at Kiki. Kiki looked at Fong Beibei with some confusion. According to the previous habit, they should be going back to Fong Beibei's dormitory. Kiki remembered that the big sisters there were very nice. There were also very big dolls to play with her. "Kiki, what do you say, how about we secretly follow them and see?" Fong Beibei suggested. "Ah." Kiki tilted her head and looked at Fong Beibei. She did not understand what she meant. "That is, let's go and see how your father goes to class." Fong Beibei said. "Kiki, you must not have seen it before, right?" Kiki hesitated for a moment. On one side was a big fluffy doll. On the other side was her most beloved papa. It was really difficult to choose. "Okay." Fong Beibei kissed Kiki and said, "Let's go and see with Sister Beibei. Sister Beibei really wants to see it." After being kissed by Beibei, Kiki finally nodded happily. "Okay, let's go." Fong Beibei excitedly held Kiki and trotted to the teaching building where Poplar Fruit went. "Be careful, don't let your papa find out. Also, we have to make a deal. No matter what happens later, you can't make a sound, okay?" Fong Beibei tiptoed up the stairs with Kiki in her arms and whispered, "Otherwise, if your papa finds out, you will be spanked." Kiki covered her little, but in fear and solemnly nodded. Poplar Fruit, who had always had a very sensitive sixth sense, was full of confidence and a little apprehension as he walked to the classroom. He did not know that behind his butt, there were already 2 little tails secretly following him. There will be 10 chapters today. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Everyone, use your votes to smash the poor. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 340. Third update. Poplar Fruit walked into the classroom amidst the clamor. After attending classes with the French department for almost a semester, Yonghua could be considered to be quite familiar with them. Although every time he helped the teacher organize the things in class, he would sit at the back and never raise his hand or participate in the class. Wow! A medium-sized boy sitting at the back shouted exaggeratedly, "Brother Yang, why are you dressed so handsomely today? Are you going on a date after class?" His loud voice immediately made Poplar Fruit the center of attention of the whole class. Poplar Fruit wasn't timid. He took the rolled-up test paper and pointed at the boy, smiled and said, "Wang Yuba, don't show off over there. I'll settle accounts with you later." Wang Yuba was surprised and crossed his arms in front of his chest. He pretended to be timid and said, "Brother Yang, I wasn't with you last night. Why are you looking for me?" As soon as his voice fell, the whole class burst into laughter. Poplar Fruit didn't back down and said, "You know what you did last night?" This kind of banter was not uncommon in his own university life. Chatting with them, Poplar Fruit always felt that he was back to the time when he was 18 or 19 years old. The feeling of being young was really good. Sure. The guys in the class who liked to make a scene began to boo Wang Yuba. They all laughed together. The guys in the French class were actually not bad. Although their grades weren't that good, they rarely skipped class when it came to professional classes. Poplar Fruit just stood at the podium and roughly glanced around. He knew that everyone was here today. "Then let's start class." Poplar Fruit calmed himself down. He felt that he was still a little nervous. Don't be fooled by the fact that he had never seen such a big scene before. He had seen more than 60 students today. However, this was his first time on the podium, excluding Fang Beibei, so it was unavoidable for him to be nervous. Poplar Fruit walked to the middle of the podium. He used his trembling hands to untie the rubber band that tied the test papers. However, when he raised his head and took in the whole classroom, Poplar Fruit magically found that he didn't tremble anymore. His legs were filled with strength again. A surge of confidence came from the depths of his heart to his eyes. He didn't know if this confidence came naturally because he was strong enough. In any case, Poplar Fruit felt that he could control this class. Perhaps he was born to be a teacher. Poplar Fruit gently knocked on the table, attracting everyone's attention, and then smiled and said, "Today Teacher Wang went out of town for a meeting, so I'll be teaching." It seems that Teacher Wang didn't inform you guys, right? The students below the podium opened their mouths in surprise. However, they quickly accepted it. After all, Poplar Fruit had been with them for so long as a teaching assistant. They were a little mentally prepared. Other teaching assistants had already taken over several classes. Poplar Fruit was considered very slow. Wang Yuba shrugged. He raised his hand and clapped with a smile. "Okay, we welcome Teacher Yang." Looking at the group of kids who were about to make a fuss, Poplar Fruit quickly waved his hand and said, Okay. You guys can just call me Brother Yang. It's just taking over 2 classes. I'm not really a teacher." After class, Poplar Fruit patted the test papers in his hand and said, "Today's arrangement is like this. In the first class, I'll talk about the quiz that Teacher Wang gave you last week. In the second class, it will be a question and answer session. You can ask me if you have any problems in your studies." Regarding the quiz this time, the overall results are quite good. Poplar Fruit smiled and said, 2 students in our class scored more than 90 points. They are Yin Xingyu and Xiao Xiaowei. Poplar Fruit shook his head and said, TSK, they are all girls. The boys are too weak. That can't be helped. The population base is there. A boy sitting in the middle muttered. This was true. The French class had a total of 58 people. In the end, only 16 were boys. This was considered good in the foreign language department. Poplar Fruit continued. There are 26 people who scored between 80 and 90 points. And the results are very good. Only 6 people scored less than 70 points, and only 1 person failed. Poplar Fruit suddenly raised his head. He pointed at Wang Yuba, who was still laughing, and said, Still laughing? Wang Yuba, the one with the biggest room for improvement is you. Haha. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. A few boys sitting next to Wang Yuba grabbed Wang Yuba's clothes and almost fell down laughing. Did you hear that? The one with the biggest room for improvement. Wang Yuba also laughed. He enjoyed this kind of friendly teasing. He cupped his hands towards Yang Guo and said with a smile, "Brother Yang, I'll be relying on you for my progress. You said that I have the most room for improvement. That's fine. You follow me and learn according to my method. I guarantee that you will score high." Poplar Fruit blinked at him without fear. "Forget it." Wang Yuba shrunk his head. After distributing the test papers to the girls in the front row, Poplar Fruit returned to the podium. After everyone took the test papers and glanced at them, Poplar Fruit began to explain the questions unhurriedly. After a while, someone realized that something was wrong. She looked at Poplar Fruit, who only took a piece of chalk and wrote on the blackboard. She asked in surprise, "Teacher Yang, where is your test paper?" Yes, after she reminded everyone realized that Poplar Fruit had already said a few questions, but until now, Poplar Fruit did not have a test paper in his hands. Let alone looking at the test paper, Poplar Fruit did not even glance at the podium. Poplar Fruit turned his head and waved his empty hands. He smiled and said, "I don't need the test paper. It's all in my mind." Everyone could not believe it. However, Poplar Fruit's performance made everyone stunned. Not only did he not look at the test papers or notes from the beginning to the end, but he also remembered who had gotten a question wrong. "You run." Poplar Fruit turned to the student and said, "You run, only you and Wang Yuba got this question wrong. Isn't this wrong?" Yu Run looked around and realized that he and Wang Yuba were the only ones who got this question wrong. What was even more unbelievable was that not only did Poplar Fruit remember the mistakes of this quiz, but he also clearly remembered the mistakes of the other two quiz tests and the midterm exam. When he was explaining a question, he was always able to analyze the relationship between the question and the previous one. Then, he mercilessly pointed out that the unlucky guy did not study seriously and fell into the same trap again. Of course, there was also praise. Wang Yuba was rarely praised. He miraculously got a question right, and it just so happened that he had made a mistake on this point before. Did you think that the teacher in my tag was only referring to this? Of course, it's far more than that. Hee, there's still a plot that hasn't been revealed yet. There will be 10 chapters today. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Everyone, please use your votes to support the poor. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 341. Fourth update. His outstanding memory was surprising because if he was willing to work hard, he might be able to reach Poplar Fruit's level. What really convinced everyone was Poplar Fruit's French. Poplar Fruit's French was not worse than Professor Wang Zhongxin's. When explaining questions to them, Poplar Fruit could often pinpoint the reason why they made mistakes. For the students who did not have good grades and did not care much about what they did wrong, the exam from a week ago had long been forgotten. They did not remember why they made mistakes. For the students who had good grades, they would remember the process of their mistakes. Then, Poplar Fruit would give them some pointers, and those memories would come flooding back. This was a very hair-raising matter. Yang Guo's description was like a mind reader, dissecting the mental process of their mistakes to the point that it was as if she could read their minds. Listening to Poplar Fruit's explanation was actually a kind of enjoyment. When he was explaining questions, he would often focus on a small problem and explain it in detail. Then, when he talked about how to solve it, he would often just skim over it. The effect was surprisingly good because they found that as long as they listened to Poplar Fruit's explanation, they would completely understand it. When they looked back at the question again, the question became very simple. Of course, it became very simple for the students with good grades. For the students with bad grades, their vocabulary was too poor. They could not even understand a reading, let alone solve a question. However, Poplar Fruit did give them a new perspective to analyze the problem. Everyone may have a different approach, but in the process, they were more or less inspired. Seeing the effect of the audience, Poplar Fruit was very satisfied. Previously, when Professor Wang Zhongxin was teaching, or rather, when he was teaching professional courses in university, the situation was often like this. The students in the first few rows in the middle were the ones who listened the most attentively and scribbled nonstop. When it came to the 2 rows and the last few rows, it was 100 different kinds of people. The 2 rows in the back were either daydreaming, quietly chatting, or playing with their phones. If there were more people, it was not impossible to sleep in the back. The 58 people in front of Poplar Fruit were not like Yin Xingyu and Xiao Xiaowei. Their eyes never left Poplar Fruit, but at least they were listening. Even Wang Yuba, who was so loud at the beginning, was not distracted. Poplar Fruit did not know that Wang Yuba actually had a good impression of him as a senior teaching assistant. When Poplar Fruit sat in the back as a teaching assistant, Wang Yuba was scared for a long time. In the end, he found out that Poplar Fruit had never told Professor Wang Zhongxin. This made Wang Yuba treat Poplar Fruit as one of his own. Today, when Yanghua mentioned his name a few times, her explanation was very reasonable. He even understood what she was saying. In the past, when he attended Professor Wang's classes, he could not understand much. This made him gradually convinced by Yanghua. Just when Poplar Fruit was talking in high spirits, he suddenly saw a little movement near the back door from the corner of his eye. When he looked over, Poplar Fruit was suddenly stunned. He stopped talking halfway and his hand was still hanging in the air. Behind the clean window, a small head popped out. When he looked up, an equally pure and beautiful face also popped out. When her eyes met with Poplar Fruit's, Fang Beibei stuck out her tongue and whispered, "Ayakiki, not good, we've been discovered." Poplar Fruit was stunned for a full 3 to 4 seconds. The students in the class noticed something strange and turned their heads in unison. They all looked in the direction of Poplar Fruit's gaze. "Kiki," a girl exclaimed in surprise. It was not strange that they recognized Kiki. Last month, Fang Beibei really did not have time to help Poplar Fruit take care of Kiki. Poplar Fruit had no choice but to bring Kiki to class. Professor Wang Zhongxin even agreed. Since then, the mischievous Kiki became the pet of the students during class. Everyone also saw Fang Beibei holding Kiki's hand. They all turned their heads and smiled ambiguously at Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit was very embarrassed. He forced himself to calm down and continued to talk. Fortunately, there were only a few questions left on the test paper. A few minutes after he finished talking, the bell rang to signal the end of class. "Let's rest for 10 minutes. Poplar Fruit threw down the chalk and ran away amidst the laughter of the students. When he came to the corridor outside the classroom, Poplar Fruit found Fang Beibei and Kiki at the corner. These 2 girls were equally mischievous as they giggled and huddled together, waiting for Poplar Fruit to scold them. Poplar Fruit, of course, would not blame them. He smiled and said, "Why are you guys here? Why didn't you tell me that you were standing outside for so long? We just wanted to see how your class is like," Fang Beibei said with a smile. "Then come in and see," Poplar Fruit helplessly said with a smile. "It's not like our Higashiyama University forbids us from sitting in. If we go in and see, wouldn't you be under a lot of pressure?" Fang Beibei said with a smile as she looked at Poplar Fruit. At this time, Wang Yuba walked past them with a smile. Just as he was about to pass by them, he suddenly turned 90 degrees and then bowed and said, "Hello, teacher's wife." After that, he slipped away without waiting for Poplar Fruit to hit him. No, Poplar Fruit did not have time to explain. He waved his hand and helplessly turned his head, but he saw Fang Beibei looking at him with a red face. That shy look made people's hearts beat faster. Wang Yuba made a good start, and the other students followed suit. They held hands in 2s and 3s as they walked past. They also covered their mouths and smiled as they greeted. "Hello, teacher's wife. Hello, sister-in-law." Since it was so frequent, Poplar Fruit did not bother to explain it to them. After they stopped for a while, Poplar Fruit continued to ask Fang Beibei, "Beibei, I still have a class. Do you want to go in and listen?" Kiki looked very eager, but Fang Beibei hesitated and said, "That's not good, right? It will disturb your class." "What's not good about it?" Poplar Fruit smiled and said, "Kiki is very obedient. If she says she won't be noisy, then she won't be noisy. Besides, the next class is a question and answer class, so it won't be too serious. And as you can see, they can't wait for you to go in with Kiki." Feng Beibei thought for a while, but finally shook her head and said, "Forget it, I'll take Kiki back to my dorm to wait for you. I don't understand your class, and it's boring to sit in there." Poplar Fruit did not force her. He also knew that for a person who did not learn English well, it would be torturous for her to listen to a class that she did not understand at all. Chapter 342. Fifth update. Back in the classroom, Poplar Fruit just opened his mouth. "This class, where's the teacher's wife?" Wang Yuba interrupted Poplar Fruit loudly. His words caused another round of laughter. "There's no teacher's wife." Poplar Fruit said helplessly, "I'm the only friend, and I was scared away by you guys." AI. Wang Yuba sighed and said, "Brother Yang, you're too weak. If you ran away, just chase her back." Someone else followed and said, "That's right, chase her back, chase her back." Poplar Fruit smiled and wasn't annoyed. He cupped his hands and said, "I will work hard." It wasn't easy to settle this group of people who liked to watch the fun. The question and answer class finally began. At the beginning, Poplar Fruit let them ask questions. The group of people under the stage looked at each other and didn't know what questions to ask. Finally, Yin Xingyu, who had the best results, made a good start. She, who was a little plump, held a notebook and memorized Mama Ma's textbook. She stood up and picked out some sentences in the textbook that she didn't understand and asked. Poplar Fruit immediately showed them what was fast. Nearly 10 questions. Poplar Fruit easily answered them with a few sentences without hesitation. That kind of confidence was really charming. Of course, Poplar Fruit only used a few sentences to explain. That was because Poplar Fruit knew that Yin Xingyu herself was a good learner. He only needed to give a little guidance, and Yin Xingyu would immediately be enlightened. Yin Xingyu suddenly aroused everyone's enthusiasm to ask questions. Poplar Fruit answered questions for nearly 20 minutes. He didn't even take a sip of water. Finally, Poplar Fruit could breathe a sigh of relief because someone asked a question that wasn't in the textbook. "Brother Yang, can you explain how you learned French? You are so good at it. Do you have any tricks?" When this question was asked, everyone's eyes fell on Poplar Fruit. Even the two top students, Yin Xingyu and Xiao Xiaowei, looked at Poplar Fruit with longing. Poplar Fruit was stunned for a moment. He smiled and said, "Yes, when I learned French, I first memorized a French dictionary, then I read books, memorized articles and memorized grammar." Phew. Several students hissed. Wang Yuba shook his head and said, "Brother Yang, we are different from you. We don't have an abnormal memory like yours. Is there any other way? We also want to learn French." Yanghua shrugged and said, "My learning process is like this." However, Yanghua's tone took a turn. He thought for a moment and said, "It's not absolute. I think to learn knowledge well, the most important thing is not talent, but whether you have interest or motivation." Poplar Fruit's statement suddenly aroused everyone's interest. "Let me take myself as an example," Poplar Fruit recalled. "The reason why I can learn French well is that I am really interested in the language." It is said that interest is the best teacher. This is not wrong at all. When you can keep your hands on the book, forget to eat and sleep to do something, and you can still enjoy it, then you are definitely not far from success. It's not just interest. Poplar Fruit smiled and said, "What urges me to keep learning is the pressure brought by money or motivation. When Kiki was born, her mother passed away. I had to raise Kiki alone." Poplar Fruit talked about the memory very plainly. He smiled and said, "I graduated a year ago. I was doing well in a foreign trade company with a salary of tens of thousands. But because of Kiki, I had to resign and go home to take care of her." Everyone listened quietly. Even Wang Yuba didn't kick up a fuss. Some of the girls who cried less had their eyes reddened. "It's quite helpless." Poplar Fruit waved his hand and said, "Raising a child is a large expense, so I had no other choice. I had to find a part-time job as a translator. In fact, I was good at English and could earn tens of thousands a month. But I found that the market for small languages was actually wider, and I earned more, so I began to work as a small language translator." Poplar Fruit smiled and said, "So I think I am good at linguistics." Interest and the motivation of money are big decisive factors. After Poplar Fruit finished speaking, the audience was silent. Then, under the leadership of someone, they all applauded. Can translation really make so much money? After Xiao Wei heard this, she stood up and asked excitedly, I heard some senior sisters say that translation is actually very difficult to make money, and interpretation earns more. I don't know if that's true. Interpretation earns more than translation in the same amount of time. This is an indisputable fact. Poplar Fruit smiled and said, but don't underestimate translation, because translation can be done at home, and it can be done continuously. So overall, the income is not necessarily worse than interpretation. Xiao Wei looked at Poplar Fruit with shining eyes and asked, Teacher, which company are you working for? Can we give it a try? Poplar Fruit was stunned for a moment, then he smiled and said, Of course. Anyone who knows other languages can register an account on the Xinda translation platform. Oh. Poplar Fruit hesitated and said, I am a member of the Xinda translation company. I shouldn't be doing this promotion in class. However, you can go back and find out for yourself. The tasks are divided into levels. You can do some tasks according to your own ability. Why don't you give it a try? Studying is not necessarily a good thing. Using some actual combat instead of practice will yield good results. Of course, you can also earn some pocket money. Poplar Fruit laughed and said, Of course, like Wang Yuba, you have to build a good foundation first. Otherwise, you won't be able to complete the task. Wang Yuba liked to argue, and Poplar Fruit also liked to make fun of him. Anyway, Wang Yuba just smiled and didn't care. At this moment, a girl who looked gentle and weak stood up. Poplar Fruit recognized her at a glance. She was another top student, Li Jiayan, who had scored 89 points. Li Jiayan summoned her courage and asked Poplar Fruit, Teacher Yang, what you are talking about isn't literary translation. I like literary translation the most, and I also like to read French works. But literary translation doesn't seem to make much money? Poplar Fruit looked at the petite girl seriously. He restrained his smile and said, The situation you are talking about does exist. The domestic literary translation industry doesn't have a good environment. Often, the money that can be earned is very little. I hope and think that the domestic environment will gradually improve. I also like literary translation. Recently, I have been reading some books. Poplar Fruit smiled and said, My suggestion is that you are still in the stage of learning and accumulation. No matter what kind of translation it is, you have to come into contact with it. Of course, don't forget to accumulate your own literary literacy. When you have accumulated enough, take a look. Maybe the overall environment will have changed for the better. Don't think that Xiao Han is long-winded on the details of this class. This chapter and the next chapter are foreshadowing for the later part of the story. There will be 10 chapters today. Looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations. Everyone, use your votes to support the poor. Greater than over equal to, that you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.